pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay. Second. Now we have the approval of the minutes. So for each one of them, you can tell me.
Mr. Renaud?
Yes.
Not to interrupt, but I do have Tom Terry, one Tom on the phone, just so you know.
You do have one there?
Tom, you're here, correct?
Yes, I am. Morning.
I was trying to go through. I think there's only one you mentioned to me that we need to change in the minutes. Is that all right with you, Tom?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The minutes of January 19th, budget meeting. Anybody have any additions or changes to those minutes? Move to approve. Okay. All those in favor?
Second.
I said second, I'm sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Sorry. Thank you. Next is the minutes, the Board of Directors budget meeting on January 20th, 26. Once again, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Right. Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next one is the Board of Directors regular meeting on January 28th.
I have one adjustment to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Under this section of new business, under the motion on the beach club, I think I left out a word when I transitioned my amendment over to Michelle. It should read, where I have where it should say not limited to. It says but limited to. It should say but not limited to. About in the middle. To approve engineering study to investigate the renovation of that house facility within the Beach Club building, pay for the renovation where the bathhouse is currently located, and to have engineers develop alternatives for where the the evaluation to include, but not limited to, a ground level facility. The word not needs to be inserted between but and limited.
Let me think about that a minute, Pat.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Approved. Motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Second. All those in discussion, any other discussion?
I do want that. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. We're on the minutes now, Dave. We're on
Yes.
January 28th.
That Gillis?
That's
No, not yet.
We're coming up there. I have something to do. Okay, and and then all those in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Next one is the Board of Directors budget meeting, January 28th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay, second. Okay. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Last but not least, our Board of Directors special meeting of February 5th, 2016. I have a change, but I think Dave Stevens also has something.
So do I.
I do it.
I do it.
Okay.
first.
She does as well, okay. Everybody all have the same one?
First and second. First and second.
Need to approve one second.
Approve
And
this
discussion.
Okay. Do I have? Do I have approval?
No, motion two.
Motion two.
I'll second.
Now we're open for discussion.
We're open for discussion. I'll let somebody else go first, so I know what
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Under board budget discussion, merit raises, it says, Ms. Jacobs is opposed to merit raises. That, I don't think is correct. What I was opposed to was a 3% increase in the number, the dollars allotted for salaries. I was not opposed to and ultimately agreed to vote in favor of having the amount that was in the budget for the GM to have discretion to give merit raises. It's a bit of a distinction, but in my mind it's important. I was not opposed to people getting merit raises, which is why I ultimately voted for it. For the money to be allocated for him to have the discretion to do that. Some people may not get any.
Well, Cheryl, what were you opposed to then? Explain that to me. What were you opposed to?
Originally, I believe we were budgeting 3% overall salary increase.
2.8, 2.6, something like that.
Well,
yeah.
it said 3 in the budget, but yes, that's what I was.
Okay, so you were opposed to the overall increase of 2.6%. Yes, no? I'm just trying to understand.
Yes, except as I said, it was originally presented to us as 3%. But yes, that's correct. I was opposed to that.
Okay. Okay.
Dave, did you have a correction?
I think I'm on 4 minutes.
Uh-oh.
This isn't the Gillis meeting.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It is the Gillis meeting, okay.
Well, should I go ahead and do mine?
Yeah, do yours.
Okay. On the same page, slightly above that budget board discussion, it says Mr. Renault said the board will create a task force. If I did say it, that was misspoken. I said that we welcome a task force, but the board does not create task forces. But I did have one person volunteered through the email to me. I haven't heard nothing from anybody else. But we're not encouraging or discouraging a task force. The board is not going to create a task force.
Well, Pat, I would go one step farther. The board is not going to get in any way involved in any way, shape, or form in this particular project. Is that correct?
I'd say that's probably correct. We did receive a letter from Mr. Gillis, but we're not going to raise it this meeting. Yes, Dave.
Okay. Define the project. There are effectively 2 things that came out of that meeting when we tested. First of all, the bypass road, or whatever it's called, loop road, proposed by Mr. Gillis. I'm sorry, thank you. That was proposed. Now, the board must be involved in that because it's our property and nothing can be done unless we are involved. Now, that doesn't mean we have to agree to it or do something like that. There's no requirement that we do other than respond to Mr. Gillis. That's thing 1. Okay. Thing 2 is it was suggested during the meeting, I believe by Shell, for one, and others, that why don't we revisit or ask the state to revisit, not us, they ask the state to visit, be right in, right out, only on 5. No, that's thing 2, separate thing entirely. Now, which one the task force was meant to apply to, I don't know. But if somebody wants to create a task force to look at and work with the state and Mr. Gillis on that, that's fine. We just don't have anything to do with it. It's not our problem. So there are 2 different things. And I think in the first case, if it's appropriate, we will be involved in the road. Instead of perhaps saying that's a good deal. The second thing is totally the state, the citizens. Is that right? Okay.
I think you're correct. But in any event, you pointed out to me that we don't really create task forces, so we will respond to Mr. Gillis when we get a proposal from him, but we're not going to create a task force at this time, nor do we in the future suggest we're going to create a task force. You know, this vote or it's not meant to be that. Anybody else? God bless you. Any correction, change? I move that we accept the minutes as corrected and as moved to.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain because I was not at the meeting. I was not present at that meeting.
So you're
I'm
abstention for
abstaining.
Tom. You're right. Right. We're out of town. All right, moving along. We have next is, I believe,
Any remarks, Mr. Renaud? President's
oh,
remarks.
I'm sorry, my remarks. They're always the same now. Be civil, be nice to each other, and the last meeting since bad one in November, December, January have been very good. So we have to respect one another, and I want that to continue. Only I have said. Okay, Bob.
Probably on the front. All right, folks. GM report was printing in the printer jam that Teresa's going to follow up on, but so you'll get a copy of it either momentarily, or if it's still jammed, they were clearing it up. No. This report. You've already got my written report. This just validates it.
Or you're going to wait for this?
Well, I was going to cover most of it in here. The written's really the narrative of what this says for you, so this just kind of gives you the overview. Again, but if I hit areas that you have questions on there that match that, please let me know. Okay?
Well, I just have a couple of questions. That's all.
Sure.
Do them now or wait?
If when we get to the slide, if I don't cover it, would you please bring it up at the end?
Absolutely.
Okay, quarterly financials. The couple of things I want to point out in the financials. First, the major amenities. They're the ones that everyone tends to look at. The golf, yacht club, and aquatics. This is in the written report, but I thought I'd go ahead and put them up because I do a quarterly update. I think it's important to note. So year-to-date actual for golf is approximately $38,000 in the red. Year-to-date budget was, at this point, should be $1,600. So the difference is $40,000. Year-to-date in 2015, so the same snapshot, 9 months of time, shows $43,313. So we're actually, if you look at despite the budget, if you actually look at the difference between last year and this year, okay, we're actually $4,731 ahead of last year when it just comes to bottom line numbers. Yacht Club current, as of the controller's report, has a $75,000 surplus right now. We had budgeted to be $142,000, so there's a $67,000 difference between the actual budgeted amount versus the actual dollars. However, if you look at last year, the same time period, we were at about $70,764 in negative. So if you take the current 75 plus the 70, we're 145,000 ahead of last year at the same time period. So those numbers look good. Aquatics is currently around 72,000 positive. Year to date, the budget amount was to be at 22,767. Which means the difference there is 94,700. That's a positive variance. If you also compare it to last year, we were at 82,000 in the red at the same time period. So aquatics is showing 154,000 year-over-year improvement. So just thought I'd point those out. They are in the written, in the controller's report. It's also in my narrative report that I've given you, and now in the current report that I'm presenting to you that was just handed out. So you have all those numbers. Yes, sir.
While we're talking about the numbers,
yes.
there's a number that I'm curious about that came out in the controller's report
Okay.
that we have here, and I just want to bring it everyone's attention, yours specifically. Bank of Ocean City money market, $743,840.
Okay.
And we were always concerned about, it being FDIC insured for 200 and whatever the heck it is, what, $25,000 now?
250.
250, okay, fine. But we do know that there is collateral posted against those balances so that those monies currently are not at risk. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Just to let you folks know that he's doing his job.
Wow, can we reverse here that one more time? No, thanks for pointing that out, Jay, because that's an important fact that folks don't know we have collateralized assets. You may not know. Cheryl or Dave, someone to say? Yes.
Yeah, one of the one of the things that kind of important to point out, these are really mega numbers. They're kind of the big over, but in the yacht club case, I mean, last year we I think it should worth for pointing out, had to be one of the worst years we've ever had for startup. Several. So we would expect to do better, hopefully, and moreover, we were promised to do better, and so it is. That's good. Good thing. The other thing is that while we're saying we're doing better, we should, I think, acknowledge that what we're heading for is still a six-figure loss by the end of the year. I mean,
That's your projection. I don't have that as a projection necessarily.
Okay. So that is what I believe, my personal belief in what is happening.
Okay.
Being a gambling man, I'll put money on.
Okay. Now, also, when you're looking at the losses there, since it's brought up at the yacht club in particular, remember that at the last minute when the board approved the budget, there was a requirement to change the bottom line by $150,000, which is quite frankly, if it was in there the way it was that we had put it in, we'd be positive variance to budget right now. So just remember that decision the board made when we approved the budget at the last minute was to reduce, which forced that number, artificially lowered it, so therefore there is a gap there. I'm just telling you that now. Those that were on the board at the time know it because it was a decision that was passed. So
Yeah, what happened exactly on Maybach
Sure.
is that the board decided, requested, it was really at the last minute, that you reduce the total payroll funds by, and I can't,
150.
a big number.
150,000.
150,000. And what you elected to do is reduce that from yacht club payroll. And, but you made no corresponding adjustment to the revenue. So of course, you're right that in fact that shows, makes it a much higher target. I think the overall target for budget was something like plus 54,000. Just
Yeah, I don't remember the final.
Yeah, well, about that.
It's probably close.
So, and so yeah, it was artificial. Certain things that you really have to look at, point to the adjustment. I'll point out again, which we pointed out in the past, so it's not we still have there is a test that adjustment for the beach club that where the beach club park.
So let me go ahead and address. Oh, so all right. So just so everyone, so they're not confused, but yacht clubs actually outperformed last year by 145, almost 106,000. That's a positive for the association. We're moving in a good direction there. We're currently 75,000 in the black at the yacht club as of this report. It's all positive, despite what we think the future is going to be. Year to date, 9 months in, we're looking pretty good there. Okay. Secondly, Aquatics number, it's easy. Mr. Steve is correct. We did take some beach club parking pass dollars and apply it. However, it doesn't take away from work the team's done there. It was $50,000, so we're still ahead by almost $50,000 in the variance, even if you take that number out. So they're outperforming regardless of that dollar. So I just want to make sure we are moving in a good direction, and specifically with those three metrics. Okay. Now our challenge right now is holding the yacht club's always the biggest because of the salaries are always the biggest month for us. So you're looking at the time of year when things are a bit slower, you know, that January, February, March timeframe. So now's when we're trying to hold the line and manage the costs down so we can try to remain as close to even at the end of the year as we possibly can. So that's where we are right now.
Well, I think, you know, I just want to point out, I'm not trying to pile negatives on positives, but I'm trying to provide perspective. And I think that perspective has to go back quite a ways. That's all. I mean, I believe people can find that out by looking carefully at the actual financial reports of the past. That's all I'll say.
Okay, on a more positive note again, bottom line, right-hand corner, we're tracking as the forecast, which we're required to give you an updated forecast, to be approximately $47,000 ahead of budget year end. That's based on the forecast, based on the numbers we're tracking right now. They're in your reports, and you can see broken down by each of the areas. So we're actually tracking ahead of budget overall for the associated. If you recall, each quarter we give you an update. So that's in your documents as well.
So I'm looking at this forecast, and okay, so I see saying budget forecast 302 and forecast net right now.
All right. Let me give you some updates on the projects. Bridge repairs. We're about to put an RFP out for the bridges. I've made copies just so you have them. Since this is typically I don't give the RFP out ahead. They're going out tomorrow. They'll be posted for it, but this is for the repair work on the bridges. We've been working with the engineering company out of Salisbury, as I've shared, and they've actually helped us craft this, and because of the nature of what it is, they're going to work through it with us. They helped develop the scope of work, they helped develop the RFP, and they're going to help us track it as they come in, just because of the uniqueness of the project itself. The other thing that if you recall last month, I shared with you all, we were looking at how the utilities were going to be either relocated or attached or affixed to the bridges, and they were all taken into consideration before the final draft of the RFP was put together, so it would go out. So all that information's been gathered. The RFP's been crafted. It'll get posted tomorrow for bids.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Does this affect vertical clearance at all?
It doesn't.
Will it stay the same? Can it raise?
It cannot. Yeah, no. There's no raising. This is only a repair to the bridge, so we're not changing.
Stay the same.
It'll stay the same.
Repair.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What's the name of? I'm sorry. Somebody else has a question.
Go ahead.
Did I interrupt somebody? Go ahead.
I had raised my hand.
I did.
Okay, Cheryl, could you? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to point out for everybody who didn't receive this, you're saying that bids have to be back in by March the 3rd.
Yes. Mr. Collins?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry,
name.
Mr. Collins. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm just going to say hallelujah because I'm so happy that we're finally moving forward on this.
Right. What's the name of the engineering?
DBF?
Davis Cole and
Right on the front of the report I handed.
Okay. And how do we get there?
I'm sorry?
How do we select them?
I
there are several ones.
I don't have that with me, but I've given you those updates for 4 months now that we're working with them, Andrew in particular, and I've given updates of what started that. I'd have to go back to 3 or 4 months ago to get you that information.
Does the county work with DBF break base?
I don't work. I know the county works with May Engineering Companies. I don't want to say in particular. I believe they do. I just don't have it in front of me. Mr. Stevens?
I was going to say, based on the information I have, county does that
Yeah, I think it was
And
the
they're-
recommendation from the
they're-
county,
and I
but
think, it was,
Thank you.
they work closely.
yeah, I think so. I just don't have it. I don't want to say it and
Yeah, okay.
Question I think maybe you should know the answer to, but since the county is involved in some of this, I assume, will they have a see it for us?
no,
Just us.
no, we're paying for it.
We're gonna pay for this whole-
This is
for
not a
just
county
repairs.
project.
Right.
Repairs are our project. So,
Right. Okay. All right.
no, it's a good question. If we were replacing the bridges, it would be a different story. But these are ours, so we're working that process.
Well, again, and based upon what I think I know, is that we have a high degree of confidence that, given the company we select, that and living there for that we're going to county as we go along. County is going to, I want to say agree, but basically, well, no, they're going to approve. They don't not formally approve, but they're going to concur with the approach that we're taking, and they're aware of it. I mean, the issue is, of course, that the state is one that mandated when the repairs to the upper portion of the bridge, and there was a series of inspections. Those inspections, and the county was involved in inspection of tax. They are the people who work with the state. So I think they're involved all the way down the line, is what I'm trying to say. I believe, this is proceeding proper.
You are correct with everything you stated. Yes, sir. Any other on the bridges? In your package, Sports Corp proposal, if you recall, we're with the Sports Corp pool project. We were going to do it this year, and we decided to put it off so it didn't, so we'd have the other pools open. We talked about it quite a bit. RFPs went out. One of the things that we said that we would have in the first quarter of this year was responses and have it ready to go for to go ahead and let the bid, get the award the contract, and then go ahead and start the permitting process now. So there's no delays for the work to start in July, be finished by early September. So all those steps have been included. They were in your board packets. To include, we broke the project down into the pool repair itself, in addition to the deck work. And they're the two pieces or two components that are on there. So we're recommending the project be awarded to Pearl Pools for $196,866. The deck improvements, and if you recall, the deck improvements was the rubberized actual coating, the Ruberock type of material. We did it around the Mumford's pool. So that's part of it. So the total project costs, as it's laid out, is $255,634, which the budget amount was $250. So we're pretty close to the budget amount on that. The other thing that also that we included in the project, which actually is what tilted it to the 5,000 over, was when we initially were looking at, we weren't replacing all the filter system. We're all doing pumps and everything, but it just was the filter system wasn't included. When the state folks who do the inspections that actually regulate the pools came down, one of the recommendations they had was consider replacing, since you're replacing everything else, go ahead and get the filter system replaced. So we went ahead and followed their recommendation, which we think was good. So we moved in that direction, and that increased the bottom line cost by about $9,000. So we're at $246, it went to $255, but we felt that was a good recommendation to put. Yes, sir.
You have deck improvements of pools and spas, and we've got Atlantic Pools and Spas and another company called Pools and Spas. So I assume you're talking about the other company. $58,768 deck improvements, pools and spas. Which company did you select?
Pools and spas.
I got Atlantic Pools and Spas, and I got another company called Pools and Spas.
Well, if you look across the top of the sheet of the grid, Pearl Pools is the first one, Atlantic Pools and Spas is the second, Pools and Spas is the name of the third company.
I understood.
So,
go ahead.
Trying to answer, I mean,
Good.
so the recommendation is use the third column, which is Pools and Spas.
Okay. How about the slide? Is the slide going to be removed and replaced, or
That's under a separate thing. That's under a separate. We're going to take care of that.
you're going to take the slide away?
Yes, we're going to replace the slide. It's a budgeted item separate from the renovation itself.
Okay, so these guys have nothing to do.
They will not be handling that part.
Okay. So that would be ultimately, you would be replacing the slide, or OPA would be
association
replacing
would,
the
yes.
slide? Okay, good. Okay. You need a motion.
I do a motion to accept the recommendation.
No, not before public comment.
Okay. So that's our recommendation. You see our time, put the time frame up in the top right corner just as a reminder. We're going to award the bids. The goal was to award it by March 1st. We're on target to do that. July 1st, 10 days in July to get the project started. All pools should be up and running at that point, and then have it completed within 60 days. Okay, the next project I want to bring to your attention is the White Horse Park bathrooms. It was not in your packet. I received the final bids yesterday, and we worked on leveling those. The board certainly can delay. Was that? Oh, that's already been. Yeah. Oh, it was in the comp. No. Here's the actual. I'm sorry. We're looking at the same thing, but this is the actual bid packet. What's in your board packet is what's up there. So this was the materials supporting the recommendation. If you recall, in the budget last year, we budgeted to replace White Horse Park bathroom. We went out to put that out for bid, and the second page actually gives a copy of the bids that had come back in. We actually had 5 contractors respond, and of the 5, we're recommending Beach Construction do the work. The actual project of 80, they had the low bid. We've worked with them in the past. Everything was included in their bid. And we also did some follow-up for the permitting, make sure they would submit that and all those, so we're comfortable with those. The other thing is it did not include, what it does is basically a 5-foot stub out for the connection to water and sewer. So we're recommending a 15% contingency be added on top of the actual bid price just to cover those connections. And that comes out to approximately $12,900. So the total package for the bathrooms are $98,900. The actual approved amount in the budget was $145. So we're well within, actually well under the originally budgeted amount for the White Horse Park bathrooms. Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't there supposed to be storage included as a part of that?
There wasn't. We chose to do it through the process, and if you'll notice, pointed out on here, and there's a couple different. Stand to one side. This area is actually the storage area. That's a chase just for the heating system, but that's the actual storage for the facility. So yes, in lieu of putting another shed out there, we decided just to expand it out a few feet in each direction and created some storage space within the bathroom. So that actually kills 2 birds with one stone. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Oh, no, even this. Okay, obviously, just saw this, but I have more questions. Trying to recall where it was that I've seen this closed before the board and discussed. Now, I know it was in last year's budget. I know the sheet of paper had a drawing. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's not.
A little different.
Yeah, right.
Similar, though.
Right. There was nothing in the last year's budget that said where the bathroom was going to go. There was no what it would do, or whether or not it was going to replace the existing bathroom, or what was going to happen to the building that attached to if we do replace the existing bathroom. There was none of that discussion. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, point me and I'll go back and review the video, but I never heard it. Never.
If you recall, Mr. Stevens, you challenge that this was even in this year's budget. So I don't,
Yes,
hang
I
on,
did.
I'm trying to answer the question. So it was approved in the budget last year. I'm moving forward with an approved item in the budget. I didn't go back to pull all the video to find out who said what when. This is a project that has been on the radar scope for several years. It's a project to put new restrooms and replacement of the old ones out here, closer to the pavilion, on the pavilion side of White Horse Park, because that allows folks so they don't have to cross the park lot. The board approved it in last year's budget, so I'm bringing the recommendation.
Okay, well, I'll point out to you, because my memory's not all that bad. In fact, it was approved in last year's budget.
Yes, sir.
It was approved over a period of time when we were approving things which weren't even discussed or proposed before the board. That was the discussion. Yes, let me continue.
Yes, sir.
At that point in time, we had a certain, like, arm waving that said, well, these things are just placeholders in the budget. That they're going to come up again. There was no discussion amongst the board or approval of the concept of a White Horse Park. Now, they are in the budget, actually. And you notice there was also a police station in the budget. And in the only presentations I saw from you, there was a linkage between the police station, the building that we're in, and the White Horse Park bathroom. They're all like one big picture.
As requested. As requested.
So, not by the board.
Mr. Stevens, I don't know how to answer. I know you're against this. I don't know. I can't.
I'm not against the buildings. What I'm
Okay,
against,
I don't mean to. I wasn't. That wasn't. All I'm doing is presenting a budget item for a spring project. I didn't go back and look at the meeting then. I have no comment to give you on discussions that led to it. I didn't think that I needed to do that.
you are presenting budgeted. What is a budget?
Yes, sir.
Budget. But in the normal course of events, budgeted items are discussed in some detail as to what they really are. I'm just pointing out that this never was. Okay, so now you're presenting this to us. You're showing us with slides that were just developed last night, which we haven't seen in advance. You're showing us a plan that doesn't answer any of the questions that I had. So no, it's not that I'm against the White Horse Park bathroom. It's not that I'm against the project. It's against talking about something without having an adequate idea of what it is that we're talking about or what it is being proposed. And this doesn't do it.
Well, here's where I respectfully disagree. I haven't asked you to take approval action on this yet. I've presented it with our recommendation. You can certainly table it until next month. You can do it as we've done on other projects in the past. Do a vote after you've had a week to review it and ask any questions. So this is the work I completed. It was wrapped up yesterday. I'm presenting it to the board.
What you actually said just a few minutes ago is, well, if the board wants to, you can delay this for a month and then take it. That does not take away the fact that this is an unacceptable way of presenting a proposal to the board.
Mr. Stevens, I can't argue your perspective on that, sir. I'm just presenting the information. It's a budget item, and I don't have anything more to say about it.
Actually, it's not really the place to. I'm telling you my opinion. The rest of the board can agree or disagree. But the facts are that this is being slipped under the wire, and you're just trying to get it.
Mr. Stevens,
that's all that's happening.
You know, again, I don't want to be argumentative. There's nothing slipped under the wire when it's a budget item. I'm providing what my role is to provide you proposals for budget items. This shouldn't be an argument with me, with the board at all. I'm presenting it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you want to do it, do it. That's all.
Bob?
Yes, sir.
And the back pages, if the other board members would take a peek, it looks like there's
three modified designs.
4 renditions.
There are.
So I don't understand with those 4 renditions.
Okay, there are 3. There are men's bathroom. There are 2 toilets or commodes and 1 urinal and the sink. Women's bathroom, there are 3 toilets. The only difference that we're looking at with one of the bidders is they've offered a little different configuration, which has the same number of toilets, same number of sinks, same number of commodes, but what it allows us to do is pick up a little more space for storage, and it's a little more accessible design. We didn't change them. We included them totally in the packet. If you look at the one we underlined is the one to provide those three. Minor changes, the square footage of the building's identical. The only difference is the interior layout.
Yeah.
And we'll work with them to get the highest and best use.
Along those lines, Bob, what I'm trying to come to grips with is that Cheryl brought up. She asked about storage space. I'm trying to figure out the square footage, and what I'm coming up with, because there doesn't seem to be all of the dimensions exposed, unless I'm missing something, is approximately 49 square feet of storage. Doesn't seem like a lot to me in a building like this. I guess what I'm saying is, are we getting the biggest bang for our buck?
We absolutely.
We
We feel very confident we're getting. This was based off the original request that went into the board budget process last year. So if you want me to go back and build larger ones, just please direct me to do it, and I'll be happy to do so. We felt this adequately met the requirements with the number of stalls that we felt were appropriate. And we included the storage. It wasn't in the original design. We included it when we put out the bid because we also had bid to put another shed out there. So instead of putting multiple buildings, we felt it was appropriate to try to tie them together. And we felt we've done that.
No, I understand.
So it's a good
No,
question.
I got that.
Yeah, Mr. Harris?
I wasn't here last year, so I'm
Right.
not really sure what the discussions were. Where is the building actually going to be?
The pavilion out White Horse Park. It's to the left of that. It's over towards the boat ramp side of the area. Yeah, it puts bathrooms over on the side so folks aren't to replace the ones here that are not in the best condition. The ones behind the pine. Right here, the building right here. Right. So it's right there and there, and it's replacement of those, and they're going to be back on that side, so people aren't crossing the parking lot the whole time. Coming to use restrooms and those.
Be done to that.
That's future. Again, that's something the board's got to decide what we want to do with. I presented a plan as the board had requested of me back in early January with a plan for the entire complex. So that final determination has not been made at this point. Yes, ma'am.
The one you're recommending relates to which of the diagrams back of the number 3?
We haven't finalized. If we go with Beach, we're going to sit with them and make sure they're all the same basic size.
Right.
If you notice, there's
the
just
one that you've shown here.
That was our original.
Which one back
The one we showed was our original to put it out for the RFP.
Oh, okay.
So it gave the number of commodes, just in general. It's a bathroom. There's not a lot to a bathroom. So in general, here's what we were looking for to meet our needs.
So are you looking for approval to move forward today?
I believe would have given you is appropriate to do so. However, it appears, as an example, Mr. Stevens strongly agrees. It's not. It's up to the board. If you'd like us to move forward, which I would like to do, we're ready to do this. We will. If we'd like to, do it later. It's certainly up to the board to make that decision.
Okay, so the existing building, that's to be determined. And now we have 2 beds.
Ladies' room, and men's room, and the bathroom facility.
No, those are the new ones. We have the new ones and we have the old
In
in the building.
in the craft shop, I guess. You're talking about the craft shop.
We've got to make a decision what we want to do with that facility as a whole at this point. So we haven't made any determination on that. If we get the new bathrooms built, we'll probably just close these to prevent any unnecessarily use. I mean, part of the advantage of having the new restrooms on the other side, we have bathrooms in this building, and I will have bathrooms over there. There shouldn't be a need to have those in the middle of the facility. We may look at storage. Again, I gave multiple options in my capital facility plan of what we might be able to do with that thing, to include clearing out the bathrooms completely and using it as additional storage. So, I mean, there are a number of things that the board can consider of what to do with those at this point. Yes, ma'am?
And the new proposed bathrooms are 88 compliant.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Looking for a motion then.
Board to decide what they want to do. If you'd like, obviously you can make motions at the table if you want to take action on it. That's entirely.
No, we can't make any motions right now.
Right.
Before we get it to after the public comments. But I do not feel that I have had all the questions answered. Don't know that in a timely manner. And saying that it was in the budget last year is so I don't think it's a matter of do not.
Next item I want to bring up project-wise, Manklin Meadows project. We initially received, we put it out for bid, as I shared with you before. Bids came in high. We actually pulled out a copy of the analysis sheet of what came in. The one bid that we received from Harkins Company actually came in for the entire project of $748,000. Your book, the GM report, this document's in your hand, so I made sure you had that to take back with you. But you'll see estimated project cost initially, the budgeted amount, and then what the actual came in and how the project came back. With only one bid, the entire project, and it was much higher than anticipated, it obviously creates some, I can't bring this to the board for a recommendation. So what we've done is we've regrouped and started looking at ways that we might be able to tackle this project differently. So the biggest issue that we have where the cost came in was the stormwater management of the project. Okay, the current design includes bioretention basins. Okay, one of the most expensive ways to manage stormwater. It's costly to build, costly to maintain. So we went back and looked at the design to find out if there's other ways that we could address that to get the same effect, the appropriate stormwater management, but with a different design. We've been working directly with some of our county folks, the engineer, looking at the regs and coming up with just a different approach to it. And there seems to be some traction there. The biggest concerns are the actual hydraulics, how quickly the water using the wetland pond. There are multiple ways you can build those. It has to be built to a certain spec so it holds the water long enough so the vegetation that's planted to help mitigate the water runoff so the vegetation doesn't die, because that's the vegetation that actually helps filter water before it runs off into the bay or into the waterways. So we're going down that process now, and again, working directly with our county folks as well as our engineer and coming up with that plan. As soon as we get a final piece of that, or that final part, which would be the stormwater management, I'll be able to come back and say, here's where we are. In the meantime, we are looking at on that right side where, because community gardens, we're going to have to move get the fence reallocated and get the playground uprights installed. And so we already have those. We ordered those.
Where they are?
What's that?
Uprights where they are?
No, we have the uprights.
Oh, yeah.
If you recall, we're replacing. We ordered that.
The old ones are rotted at the base.
Yes,
I
and we're replacing those. So
and where they are, we moving them.
Well, no, the new design calls for a shift of the parking lot a little bit and the playground. So we're getting bids to do the earthwork on that side. The stormwater management part of it can be a third part of that side, and that's what we're working with the county to figure out. So I'm trying to get numbers right now. That'll probably be something I'll have in the next week or two, and it may be something I email to you all just so we can start talking about, looking at all, outside of waiting for the next board meeting, because we'd like to keep this project moving. In the meantime, it's my intent, unless the board tells me otherwise, to go ahead so we don't disrupt the community gardens vote. Go ahead and get their fence. If you recall, we're coming in from the side entrance now. We were going to move it to the front off of the Manklin Meadows Drive. And that just reconfigures some of their plats, but they're getting ready to plant with weather starting to break, so we need to get that accomplished. So, and that's a public works thing. So we're going to go ahead and move forward on that. And once we figure out with the earthwork what type of costs are associated with, we believe that's going to be well within budget as well. We'd like to go and get the earthwork done, because all we're doing with the parking lot, it's gravel, is changing it from the design to a straight in design, which actually frees up room for the playground. We don't want to replace the playground posts where they are and then take it back apart and move it and resettle them, because every time you do that, you're loosening everything that bolts together. So that's where we are with the project. I know there's a lot of moving parts to it, but when we had a $750,000 moment on that, it's like, wow, this doesn't work. We believe doing it ourselves, we'll do the contracting out instead of trying to bid the whole project out and taking it into steps or phases. We can get this accomplished, and we know we have to do the playground before the spring, and we know we have to get to the community gardens.
Now, you've been talking to the community garden folks.
Yes,
Correct.
met with them at least 3 times now.
Let me make sure I understand. In other words, what you're going to do, or your process in completing this project, is to take it one step at a time.
Yes.
And step number 1 would be this particular playground, relocated and reestablished. Do I have that concept correct?
1 and 2. 1 will actually be, we'll move the gate for the community playground, or not playground, community gardens.
Okay.
Okay, so think of it starting there. Start with the gardens, realign the parking lot. It's just gravel, where instead of the flag, it's going to go straight in. And then right next, that's where the playgrounds are. So it's our intent to take those 3 in order, because one has to move for the next. They're small for us. They're relatively small parts of the project.
Now, you and I have had some conversations in private
Yes.
about a form of ground cover. I personally would like to see in any kind of proposal whether or not that ground cover would work on that particular playground,
Okay.
and present it to the board for them to make their own decision as to whether or not it's worthwhile to do that. It's a much more expensive project. We all know that,
Right.
because of the cost of the material vis-a-vis mulch, but it never has to be replaced.
Agreed. No, that's a great project to do it on. That's a large playground with some height, so that's actually a great place to start. See, you're right. It's going to be expensive, but we'll certainly we'll do the cost analysis on that. Bring it to you. Sure.
Okay.
Hey, yes, ma'am. I see the look. I know there's a question.
We've already discussed that relative to next year's budget.
Yes.
And approved going forward with that, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, keep in mind, because of the expense level, it's going to be something I have to bring back to the board anyway. So it'll be
But
brought
am I
back with
correct in what I
recommendations.
said?
I'm sorry?
Am I correct in what I said?
Yes, you are, but it would be something I bring back to you anyway.
One other thing, Bob. In your written notes, I'm sorry.
Just the microphone.
Your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. In your written notes, you have plan will be provided to the board for consideration on or before March regular board meeting.
Yes.
Could we have that instead of at the board meeting to avoid this kind of back and forth?
Well, that's what it says on or before. If I get the information next couple of weeks, that's what it says. It's be something I'll put out to you email. I can do this via email and get it to you with any of those type of things. Yes. We'd like to keep moving. We need to keep moving if we're going to. I need to get the community gardens moved. I need to get the playground uprights installed. Have to get those done in the next couple of months. Community playground or community gardens first, because they're getting ready to do their planning. So we are going to start there, because they're really just moving the gate and helping them realign their flags. That's simple for us. It's the earthwork that's our concern moving forward, primarily as it relates to stormwater management. Okay? That's the update on that project. DMA reserve study. This is just something I'm just, again, throwing it out there as an update provided to the board last month. I haven't received any input or questions. Assuming we approve the budget. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead.
Once the budget gets approved, if there are any of the major capital projects that are in this year's budget, once approved, we'll go ahead and reach out to Doug at DMA and have him put them in, because that's relative once they're approved. And then from there, we're supposed to meet as the board with DMA directly and discuss the final reserve document, the study, with any other concerns or questions. He'll explain it in more detail. And then after that meeting, it'll be a final doc.
Okay.
Jack.
Yeah. Excuse me.
No,
Okay. DMA reserve studies. You know, when we meet with DMA, I kind of feel as if, at least from my perspective, we may be meeting with them in a vacuum, primarily because, you know, this would be our first blush at meeting with a DMA other than the original proposal that they had. It's my understanding when this was first proposed and first began that there was a volunteer group that you were working with. Some members in the community, together with DMA, to formulate some information as that is reflected in that reserve study. Am I correct on that, or am I wrong?
I don't recall that. No, sir.
Okay. So you're not working with anyone else outside of DMA. It's just you and DMA working together to come up with.
We have a treasurer and assistant treasurer. The board's approved that I've worked with.
Okay, so you are working with Tom Terry and the assistant treasurer. Who's the assistant treasurer?
You know it's Pete Gomzak.
Pete Gomzak. Okay.
You're well aware of that. So what's the question?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
The question is, are you working with others? So, and it's up to the board. It's really entirely their decision. I thought it might be useful for this board to meet with those people that you have worked with to bring us up to speed as to the evolution that you went through in developing, you know, this initial report, so that when we meet with DMA, we might have a little bit more background as to what those numbers represent and what the overall plan is. Does that make sense?
I understand why you're asking, but let me help clarify.
Okay, please.
Okay, it's not that complicated.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's smart. Here's explain why. The document you currently have, and you've had it for approximately a month now, all it covers is the assets that we have on our books. Okay. Again, when I gave it to you, I gave you the 4 categories. Now it was broken down. It just has a list of our assets. Those assets on our books, and these are books that Art Carmine, our controller, has. There are 1,500 plus assets, and so many of you have seen that big, thick 48-page document.
Right.
That document is maintained by our outside audit company. It's reviewed and updated regularly. TGM is our audit company. They're the ones that review it and update it. So that's where the information came from. Was our actual audited statements or documents. There's no changing or adaptation to any of the information other than here's what it is, factually what we have. DMA then came in after reviewing all those materials, our financial statements, the 48-page document with 1,500 plus assets. From there, they've listed them, they've put them in different groupings. I had a part of helping them with the groupings because it's what we do. So it's easier for us to understand the documents. And then from there, they just put their life expectancy based on current condition, based on what their inspection was of when they came out. They, if you recall, gave you an update. The team came out. There were 3 or 4 of them. They actually went to different parts of the community, walked the buildings, looked at the HVAC, looked at all the components, and they gave life expectancy. They actually went back and put all that into their spreadsheet. That's where we are right now. There's no, Mr. Stevens, you're saying no.
I'm very politely.
No, let him talk. I mean, let's
so what basically,
I didn't say a word.
I know.
No, he shook his head. I didn't know it was something to address. So basically, think of the current document you have.
He has a nervous tick, but that's all.
I sat here quiet.
You did. I just, so an update, so basically think of it, the easiest way to look at it now is it's an Excel type of spreadsheet, the information built in, and columns giving life expectancy, time in service, those type of things. They're all basic terms based on when whatever the asset was put in service, what the current condition is, and what the life cycle of that particular asset is supposed to be. That's it. There's no secret sauce to this. There's no changing numbers. That's what it is. It's just basically taking our current asset and figuring out where they are and what their current status is.
Well, excuse me, David. Where I'm coming from, Bob, is that sometimes, you know, when you do these major, this is a big deal study. I mean, this is a major study. There are certain assumptions that the organization needs from our point of view, from the OPA's point of view, in order to begin that study. And I'm just trying to determine if there were some assumptions that were put forward or...
No. You've asked me that couple. We've had this discussion, so it's you and I have. I'm there are no assumptions other than, if you recall, when I handed you the study, I shared this with you, other than the actual index for inflation. And they took the 5-year instead of 10-year average. That was it. Other than that, there are no assumptions. That's part of what the next step, when they meet with you all, they're going to talk about the report. We're going to talk about if there's any concerns, any questions, which we haven't had any yet, and then answer anything that may come up. It's a list of assets right now. I mean, that's what a study is. There is no manipulation of the data. No, but I'm saying I don't mean that in a bad way. No,
not even going down the road of manipulation.
No. I don't say that in a bad way. I'm saying there's no messing with the figures. I mean, they're what they are. So I'm not sure. So the next step is to meet with you. I mean, that's the process I've shared, and that when I gave it to you as I've updated, that's exact. We're following the exact process that we said we would follow. Is there? I mean, I don't know.
Can I step in here?
I think Dave was next. Dave.
No, let Tom go.
We can't see Tom's hand up.
His hand's been up for now. My hand is up, but he can't see it. Just to make sure we're clear on something, just to make sure we're totally clear, neither I nor the assistant treasurer has met with DMA. We have not met with them. I have not talked to them. We worked with Bob. So there has been no board connection to DMA to get to this point.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're clear on that. I didn't want any gray area here as if we've been working with them behind the scenes or something. That has not gone on. The next step is to simply have it's a simple effort on the part of, it's a simple but hard effort for the board of directors to decide what capital projects, we already know some, because hopefully they will be, they're part of the budget that I hope to pass later on in this meeting. But there are other items which DMA needs to know about on long-term replacement repair positions that the board wants to make sure are included in their assessment, because in the end, they need to be able to give us an assessment of our reserve status of where we are, and they can't do that based on simply the assets we have. We have to give them a sense of what the future is going to be as far as capital investments. And that's part we'll have to include and should include the entire board having the discussion to develop that list of items, which will be a part of the next level of process. I don't envision DMA having only one meeting with us at this point. I think DMA will have, hopefully not multiple meetings, but we clearly do need the next phase of this project is for the board of the directors to decide, well, what capital items need to be thought of when doing the assessment, because they are currently an asset we have or an asset we don't have. It's something the whole board has to be involved with. But I just want to make sure we were clear. Neither I nor the assistant treasurer has had conversation with DMA to get to this point. And as Bob has been trying to explain, what you had in front of you in that book was an assessment, their view of the life cycle and shelf life, if you will, of existing assets. They can't just stop there. We have to help them understand what it is we think we might do with the country club. What we may do when the bridges might not only be repaired, which is in this budget, for last year's budget, but also replaced. So there are things we have to work through as a team to provide the DMA, and those, Jack, are some of the assumptions that we have to come up with.
Right.
That we can give DMA. Okay, I hope that helps.
much, Tom. Thank you.
Well, that would be good. Can I go there?
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to make one clarification. Terry may not be aware. Pete Gomsak was in one of the conference calls we had, just when we're.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know, that's what you wouldn't have. He was talking to Art when I pulled Art into a meeting and Pete was with him. It wasn't a big deal. It was just on the categories. When we came up with the 4 categories, it was when we were looking at the reserves. He just added some insight to that. So he had part of a conference call. I don't want to say he didn't have anything, but he did have part of that conference.
Okay. I was unaware of that.
Yeah, it was just for clerical purposes. Mr. Stevens, you had some questions?
Yes, I did. Not questions, really. Tom, you say that we've had the board for a month now. And also mentioned that there haven't been any questions. There was no opportunity to have any questions, none whatsoever. Who are we going to ask? That's the whole point, being able to meet with DMA. And now, let me just continue. There was no meeting of the board to say, well, what are our questions? As far as I know, I never saw a single email saying, hey, I've read this report. I have a lot. There's none. Okay. Second thing, you imply that all of this is just about looking at our assets. And Tom says, and rightfully so, I think, that when it comes to determining what our assets may or may not be in the future, or what we may or may have to fund for, that that's board, something board has. Well, but let me tell you, although I do not have the book with me, I hope you'll take my word for it, that that's not what's in the book now. What's in the book now are projections of what we're going to have in the future. And moreover, projections, in some cases, of how we're going to pay for it. How long we're going to continue to pay this, whatever you want to call it, 5-year plan, legacy plan, or whatever, which isn't in correspondence with our budget. The whole thing, if you look at it, if you're doing the budget, and then you look at that and you say, it's off. And moreover, there are assumptions in there that are far from having been agreed for. But we're not. Tom's saying, we're really going to do that. And it's going to take not one, but not multiple meetings. Contradiction there. But I think it will be long discussions as long as the budget. It should be a long discussion as to what, if we're going to get an accurate reading from these people, we have to agree on what future we're going to have to compromise and say, okay, let's look at a worst case, let's look at a best case. None of that is close to being done. And I guess I'm still not clear why. I mean, that's the important part of this, of what we're doing. And we're not, I don't even know when. Sometime in March, we're going to. And anyway.
All right, I can answer, I can clarify, because I've been on I haven't changed where I stand, or I haven't changed what I've shared with you. I'm not changing it today. Let's clarify misunderstandings. Future projects, board approves. We all know that. There's no question about it. We've included all the capital items or assets that we have. That's in the report. I've asked for input when I handed you the report of your initial review on it. Please email it to me so we gather any initial questions that we may have that are a point of confusion, and I'll get it to Doug at DMA ahead of time. That was Doug's request. I shared it with you then. I'll share it with you again. So the fact you didn't give me any isn't relevant. The fact you've had the opportunity. The next step now is to set time to meet with him to go to that next step. That's where we are. We're not doing anything different than what we said we were going to do. We're on track. Our next step is to meet with the MA and start to vet some of this out. That's it. It's really, we're making it harder than it is. That's where our next step's to meet with them. If it leads to 2 meetings or 3 meetings, that's up to you all. This is a requested study that you all had, so we move forward from here.
As a fact, the only practical way, first of all, I didn't send an email, I could have, but it would be fruitless to ask that number of questions without being able to talk to them face to face. Absolutely useless. And I'm not going to waste my time. Moreover, apparently the rest of the board thought so too, because if they sent out emails or questions or whatever, they sent them to you, but they didn't share them with the rest of them.
I haven't received any.
You haven't, so I don't think anybody's not shared. And the third thing, just let me reinforce again, that in the existing documents that we have right now, there are lists of future projects that they didn't get from Pete, they didn't get from Tom, I'll accept what they said. So they got basically from you, said these are the future projects that are out there. I mean, so that's the current condition of, and I'm not talking good, bad, or whatever, but it can definitely lead to a very misleading result, which was published in a newspaper.
Which, interestingly enough, Mr. Stevens, the only people that have the report are board members.
Yeah.
So if it got out, you've got to look at each other. Like, I have my copy; it has not been distributed. So when you say it's gotten out, why would I publish it? I've said up front, this is a draft. Please don't put it out there. So please don't. I don't even understand.
The report itself can be extremely misleading. And it's been used
until it's
by
complete.
the way, it's not just in the newspaper. I mean, Tom Charity in his presentation at the last budget referenced the 14 million or something that we're going to need more in our current reserve based upon the DMA report. Come on. I'm saying the sooner we get to this, the better off you are as a board, as a whole board. So all of that.
I'm sorry. Sure.
Not that I want to agree with Mr. Just joking. But I think there is value in what he said about us not having responsive questions. I, for one, see this as a very detailed, complex document that I don't feel comfortable yet until we actually meet with DMA to have a better understanding of it and discuss it. And you may say, well, you should have brought up questions. I'll admit my inability to be able to do that at this point. But I think there is value in saying one of the reasons perhaps that we have not submitted the questions yet is because we lacked the ability to talk about it amongst ourselves and with DMA.
Right.
Take that for what it's worth.
I don't know, just as I'm sorry, Bill, there's nothing wrong here. We're making this, this is the process we've been saying. Yes, if you didn't feel comfortable, that's why we had the first meeting in March.
Right, but I think you were casting it in a negative light that you had not received any questions at this point. And so I just wanted to clarify for myself why you didn't get any questions from me. And perhaps others felt the same.
No. I think we've gone around in circles 3 times. We're all saying the same thing. Pass the budget, then meet with these people, and that's our questions. That's what the information that we need. After the budget's passed, then we're going to meet with these people. That's all he's asking for, is if we get the budget passed in February to have the meeting in March, or if we get the budget passed in March, that's all he's saying. I think we're all saying the same thing, whether we submitted questions or not. We're saying the same thing. Budget first, and then we meet with these folks. Whether we meet with them 1, 2, 3, 4 times, whatever. I think that's all I see here. Pass the budget and then meet with DMA.
Well, I would disagree with that, but there's another element. That's the other leg of the 3-legged stool, if you will, because we are supposed to be incorporating the Beacon study results ultimately as well. So it'll be step 1, step 2, step 3.
I would like to just chime in.
We wrap this part of this meeting up.
I think
The
Tom's
bottom
still.
line is we know we're going to be scheduling meetings with DMA, and the process will involve the board of directors completely. And I would suggest that we move on. I don't know that there's anything left to say at this point around this issue that hasn't already been said. So I would like us to move on.
I just want to say one thing, and that I completely agree with Cheryl. It doesn't have, that's not true. But I have a little bit of discomfort viewing the study about knowing what questions to ask. I'm not quite sure if I ask this question, is it a dumb question? Of course, there's no such thing as a dumb question, I understand. But is it a question that I should know the answer to, or is it something that they can clarify by meeting with them? I see no problem with having an extra meeting. As Dave mentions, it's more than multiple notes. So to have a meeting to discuss it, because obviously none of us, including myself, have gotten back to Bob any questions for DMA, which shows to me a lack of.
Next issue, Bob.
Are you sure?
I mean,
This was not an argument. This was just an update.
I think Gary summed it up.
This should have been a good thing. I have no idea how to turn things bad. I was giving an update of where we were the next time we were all meeting with DMA. I really
It
couldn't.
was a good thing. It was just a different kind of good thing.
Okay. All right. I'm glad that noise is there. That's actually good. That's coming out of my head, just so we're all clear. It's about to. All right, let's see if I can be more positive.
All right.
Other things coming up that we may want to discuss. There's a bridal show at the Yacht Club, which is a good thing, unless anyone objects. There's a town hall meeting on the 8th. Chamber of Business Expo on the 9th. Town hall meetings here. Chamber Expos at the Yacht Club. Sandpiper Town Hall meeting. That's on the 10th. Maryland Coastal Bays volunteer fair at the Yacht Club. And then there's a Residence Academy. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Don't we have a meeting with the commissioners?
We do. It's not finalized yet, so that's why it's not on my report.
Really?
The email went out. So, yes, we have something scheduled towards the end of March. I'm going to say 25th, 24th or 25th is what the request went out. Okay. The Sandpiper
The town hall meeting, Bob. What, do you know what the topics are going to be? You know what your
Which town hall meeting?
the 8th?
Mine?
Yeah.
I thought I did, but I change it daily based on feedback. Town hall meetings I usually do, we take topics and questions from our membership ahead of the meeting. I try to get as many of those. We blast out, we're having the meeting, so a lot of times it goes by theirs. I'll give an update on certain projects, certain things, although I'm a little confused on where some of the major ones are now, so I'll try to clarify that before then. And we're just updating on where we are with the association and trying to go face-to-face to answer any open questions that people have, concerns they have, questions about, it's their meeting, really. It just gives them direct access to ask it in an open forum. Following that, there's a Sandpiper town hall meeting. There seems to be there was a lot of initial email that there's tanks being put up and CPI is not doing their job, which again, ready, fire, aim is our process here. If anyone has military background, you know what that means. Never take time to slow down and see what you're aiming at. Just pull the trigger. They started, but it's a slow process. They're trying to figure out how they're going to start putting in. They did mailings, they did door hangers, and they have temporary tanks in one area. It's a starting process. They're going to come in and give us all an update, okay, on where that is, and we've agreed to March 10th being the town hall meeting. So they did start they were a little aggressive in starting without actually back briefing us, but there was no major catastrophe. You know, after we found out, we made a call, found out what they were doing, and now we've requested a meeting. So they're going to give a meeting to the membership on the 10th. It'll be in here, we'll broadcast it, and they'll give an update on their process. Okay, this should be a fun thing, but I'm uninviting some people, just so you all know. You know who you are. We have our Residence Academy. It's the first time we put together this actually came as a recommendation from our public relations director as well as one of our members who have been working closely. This is something that other communities offer to help educate, to help share information with their residents so they understand a little more about how their community works, what's impacted, those type of things. So we've got a tentative schedule set up. These are the topics we're going to cover. We currently have 25 registered members, which was what we wanted that's what we wanted to have for our first event. We don't want it to be too big because we want to be able to manage it. a couple hours a night for those 7 weeks, and we're going to kind of break down the community and hopefully educate and have some fun with it. This should be a very positive, good learning experience for our members. Yes, ma'am.
Was this for property owners only, or did it include renters? How did you determine who would be?
Our targets are membership, and I don't know of all the ones that have signed up. They're all members, right? Yeah, everyone's signed up so far. Everyone's signed up on the first class are members.
And you said 25, Bonnie?
Yes.
And is that the limit?
Yes.
So you've cut it off?
Yes.
If I showed up, could I?
No.
No.
I can't show up?
No, you can't. No, it's
That
not.
doesn't seem fair.
No. Here, please understand, we're not making this a public forum, joke, social media. It's not. This is to help our membership become more educated about their association. So it's a classroom type setting. It's going to be conducted that way. I'm conducting the meeting, so it's not, I'm allowed to have closed meetings. I'm having this for those guests that have signed up. We'll do more of these. This is not an open. So
But can I critique it?
No, I'm not interested in your critique on it.
It just doesn't seem right. Does that seem right?
I want the meetings to be 2 hours. I talk for an hour on one slide. That's why.
There's
Yes,
something
ma'am.
missing.
Is it being video?
Good question.
We are actually considering that now to videotape it to use for future as well. So yes, we're trying to figure, again, we've got some details we're trying to iron out. We'd like to videotape. Teresa and I were actually talking at length about that, how to videotape, where we do snippets, we can put it on the website, just some things like that. So that is our goal at this point. Okay, I hate to ask any questions, but that's probably the appropriate face. So
Is it in the budget? I mean, do we have money in the budget for this?
yes.
There is?
Yeah, you know what? Tell me not to do it. That's the easiest
No,
thing.
no.
I'm not arguing another slide today.
Why would we do that?
Why would we do it?
No, why would we tell you not to do it?
Right, so that's where I am.
And we'll pick up on it.
I am finished, Mr. Renault, with the
Thank
meeting.
you. And our next on the agenda, I think, is public comment. Is that correct? Correct. Are there any public comments? This gentleman over here. Oh, okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go address the mic.
My name's Jim Freeman. I live at 60 Boston Drive. I am here representing the platform tennis community, and I'm the president of their association. I'm here to try to encourage Mr. Thompson to include, in it, and it may already be there, in the new proposal for the Manklin Creek project, the addition of the 2 platform tennis courts as we've discussed before. The history of, I'm just going to be real brief, the history of platform tennis started here, 1970s. They started, Boise Cascade built this development, it slowly built up, and until a few years ago, we started peak about 127 members. Right now, we're about 110. 110 members and 4 courts is not a very good situation. We have a lot of overcrowding. On Saturdays, we often have, not always, but often we have 40 people show up, and of course only 16 can play at one time. So we have 4 people waiting to play that are playing, and 2 more courts greatly help out that situation. The mornings are a prime time to play, and not everybody can get a time during that prime time. Money, that's always a big one. Since I said there's about 110 members, let's just make 100, and for $150 for membership, that means we're pulling in about $15,000 a year. So if you look in the past, that means over the past years, probably averaged, over $100,000. And in the future, we'll probably raise in the next 10 years over $150,000. So we really have paid for the courts. And I also like to say that we have been asking for these courts for about 6 years now, had talks with everybody's in charge of us, and it has already been put into the budget for year after year after year, we've had monies put into the budget of these courts. So I'm just trying to make sure that our courts are also put into this proposal. If we get more courts, it's going to mean more membership. There's no doubt about it that if the facilities grow, then so will your membership. That's just a good fact. So we'll be making even more money. So it's good. And the extra money, we have almost no expenses. We just have a slab of concrete and a net, and a screen around it, so we have very little expenses. The extra money that we've been making over these years has gone to Park and Rec to fund other programs for a good community. So in summary, I'm hoping that Mr. Thompson's proposal will include the 2 flat tennis courts that we've promised. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate listening to our comments.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Tom Janusik, 17 Lookout Point. I just had a question. I don't remember exactly when in one of the meetings in the beginning of the year, you had new bridges on 3 new bridges on the slide for those for Ocean Parkway and then over to the golf course. Weren't you looking at that at one time? Actually replacing the bridges before repairing?
We're dual tracking it, yes, sir.
Okay. But was there, I seem to remember like an $800,000 to $1 million price tag on replacing the bridges with a higher bridge. Am I wrong with that, or is that about what that number was?
No, that was the initial estimate for replacing a bridge. That's
right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
One bridge, Bob?
Yes.
One bridge.
Yes.
One bridge.
So my question is when you're sending out the RFP, is there an inclusion or any portion of that RFP that has them give you a price for replacement as well as repair? Just in case, my theory is if it comes in at $500,000 to repair the bridge on Ocean Parkway, and it's $875 to replace the bridge on Ocean Parkway, I think we just replace the bridge. Got the money, just get it done. That way we don't have to come back. My other point is that Hogan is getting ready to release $2 billion in infrastructure money to the bridges that are in need. I understand we approached that, and we're not the first bridge on the list, or maybe not the second. But the money's coming out in the next couple of years. It would be a shame to spend $500,000 to fix them and then have to go back and replace them, 3 or 4 years later. So that was my question in the RFP, just wondering whether there's a provision for them to go, oh, by the way, we can do this because it's easier just to knock it down and done.
Yeah, the RFP does not include bridge replacement. When the engineer actually started scoping out work, you also have mobilization costs that dramatically change complete replacement.
Sure.
And it pushed the pricing up to 1.3 to 1.4 million for a bridge. Okay. So our initial 1 million was where we thought somewhere between 800 and a million. You were correct.
Right.
But once they started to scope it out and actually do some of the hard numbers,
sure.
It elevated by another $300,000 to $400,000.
Right.
So because of that change and knowing priority of getting the repair work done, we just put all of our energy in getting the final piece together to get the repair work this spring because that was our target. And you're right, I'm tracking some of that. Hopefully the state releases some money where we can look at some future planning.
Right. Well, my only theory is if it comes in like the Manquin Creek project, for instance, $500,000 over what we're estimating, wouldn't it just be fair just to roll up and say, let's just spend the 1.3?
That's why we get the estimates. No, that's
my point. Why for an extra $300,000 or $400,000 for a 40-year span? And I'd be remiss with not asking the budget that I have work. Did we include the food truck budget?
Yes.
Really?
It's currently in the budget. Yes.
I gotta say again, take a year, let Rosenfeld, let the other 13 trucks come in here and try it out on a weekend and see if they make enough money that they want to keep coming back. And then next year, if they're making good money, buy our own food truck. Why do we have to do it this way? Create another expense. We're finally making money at the yacht club. Jerry Lewis is doing a great job. Why are we going to put something else on his plate? He's going to have 2 more employees to run this thing. He's going to have, we're going to go into much more cost, and he's going to have to manage that too. Why, when we're finally starting to do something right at the yacht club, do you want to throw another thing on his plate so he can just go down that road and lose money there too? And the 35% cost, they're not realistic. I'm sorry. You might think they are. You might have done the numbers based on budgets for doing other things. Rosenfeld's is 60 on his best day. On his best day. So how we're going to do 35, I don't understand it. That's just my opinion. That's talking to people who own them, who run them. I think we're best to table it till next year. Get some guys in here paying us $500 a month to sit at these other places with different trucks, rotate them on a weekly basis, and see how much money they make, whether they want to come back. If they want to come back because it's profitable, buy a food truck by all means. That's just what I have to say.
Thank you.
Pat.
Yes.
Can I make a comment?
Point of order, Mr. President. This is a comment section, not a debate.
So I'm not allowed to make a.
The public comments are completed.
I'm not running the
After public comments are completed, can you speak?
Okay.
Yes, Slovan.
Good morning, Slobodan Trendik, 20 Drawbridge Road. As some of you know, bridge topic is very close to my heart, having brought it up to the public domain last year. I want to piggyback off Tom's remarks. As some of you know, the county, numerous reports, including the one from 2011, has found our bridge structurally unsafe and below minimum standard requirements. The county report also recommended certain repairs in order to bring both bridges to the minimum standard levels. Now, I understand why there's been a focus on repairs, because after all, those repairs are probably 5 years overdue. But what hasn't been discussed and what the board and the management has not shared with the homeowners is what exactly do you intend to do with bridge number 1 on Ocean Parkway, which the county has found unsafe structurally since 2011. And the repairs that are currently being planned, are they in any way addressing the actual structural issues related to the safety of this bridge? Or are they basically just the minimal requirements indicated 5 years ago, like guardrail, that is not adequate according to the current standards? So I would like to ask the board to really revisit the issue of bridges from a replacement point, unless we intend to challenge county's report and inspection done and state that we can go on living with this bridge for another few years before we replace it. This is not a question of money, it's the question of safety of the homeowners and kids in this community. And I have talked to some people who actually ride some heavy vehicles across this bridge, and they're not very comfortable with it, that this large heavy vehicles go across it. So I would just like to make this comment, ask to let the homeowners know what we plan to do as far as the actual replacement, which our county government has recommended that it be done. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that just
Oh, sorry.
Good morning. My name is Tim McMullen. I'm 174 Nottingham Lane, and from several different perspectives today. I was your first summer recreation director about 5 years during the 1970s, the chairperson of the Recreation Advisory Committee, and also a member of our racket over at Mac Meadows. We have a meeting next Thursday night, Rex and Parks, and here I've got to report back to my committee that we still are up in the air about the restroom facilities. I've got 4 years experience in public education. I thought our budget process was complicated. I still have not figured out our budget process, and I've asked many questions of what is going on. My impressions, and please correct me, is that this restroom project has been with the current budget. In 4 months, you're going to have several thousand people in that park, concerts and musical things and movies. And am I going to have to go back to committee and share with them this may not get done this summer, it may get done in the summer of 2017. And that's extremely discouraging, because if we have an item that has been approved, then I would think it would benefit our community by having this project done this summer. Concerning Macklin Meadows, I agree it needs to be phased in. It's a very complicated process. And I agree with Mr. Freeman, you need 2 also want to add that my vision is to have a racket center that is one of the best on the whole Eastern Shore. We have no pickleball courts there. We have temporary pickleball courts where they have temporary nets that they put up. We've taken 4 tennis courts and painted pickleball lines on them, also tennis lines. And I'm one of those crazy guys that's out there at 7 o'clock in the morning, even during winter, playing tennis. And it is extremely confusing. Those lines just aren't patterned. So we do need pickleball courts in this new thing. My last comment is between the racquetball whole complex. We've got tennis, we've got platform, we've got pickle. I'd like to see all 3 groups work together. The final vision should be unbelievable racket center for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Morning. Kathy Grimes, Chairman of the Aquatic Committee. And I would just like to say, in terms of sports court and the renovations there, many months' time has been spent researching what exactly needs to be done there, how it needs to be done, what needs to go into it as far as the engineering end of it, what's under the pool and deck right now. Not only have months been spent, but years have been spent talking about the sports court and what is best for the community. I have been in the full service business and built pools, renovated pools, and trained staff. And I want you to know that with the recommendation that Bob has thrown out there, it absolutely is the best recommendation for the company that is out there. Will not be sorry. They do an excellent job. I have visited their work in many states, and it's impeccable. And the community will be very, very happy with the outcome of the renovation. That's all I can say. Thank you, Bob, because a lot of time is gone into it.
Any other?
Yeah. Now, I bought my stopwatch. Pull up Ostfeen, 12th floor down. I have here a paper from the new manager from Ocean City. $150,000. 800 people on it. He writes in the paper here, I'm glad to have the job. I'm lucky. Here's another thing he said. I have people, you have people that really know the technical aspect of what is need to be done. I surrounded myself with good people and let them get started and do the job. Here we don't got that. Our manager has fired the best people we got, people. I told you last month, you 7 people have to represent us, not the manager. This is the problem here. It's a clique. There will be no peace here so long we got this man as manager. He knows everything. How it come now that he has to buy a truck to feed the people I had that for $5? If he had checked everything when he built that new yacht club, he's supposed to have to look into it. Who's going to build a $5 million yacht club with an old kitchen? It shows you the man got not the ability to be our manager. You people have to wake up. We got to click. I told you that the last month. I'm getting tired on spending, that he spent my money. Everything goes wrong. It was first his coffee house, and he fired the best man we ever had for the kitchen. Then the swimming pool, he blames it on other people. Busted out the ground. Then he came with his $1 million life membership. That don't work. Then he came out with the New York club. This is a disaster. Everything he has done is a disaster. I'm here to protect myself, and I tell the way I am. That is why Donald Trump is so famous in the United States. He tells the truth what goes on. You people have to fight for us. We got to click. If the manager says, if these two people get elected, I quit. Tom was right to investigate that. He got the right idea. He's fighting for the people. You people have to wake up. Here in the last 3 years, we got people running for the board. I am an independent. I'm an independent. I write big articles in the paper. I'm independent. But every time when it comes to vote, they vote for the clique. It's no question. Hundreds of people call me. They see me on TV. They hear about me. We have to get new leadership in here in Ocean Pine. Mr. Thompson has to go. There's no question. So long he is here, there will be no peace in the board. We're going to have one clique after the other. We got the 5 years here. We got a clique. We cannot break it. We have to going to break it. That's me.
Thank you, Doug.
All right.
Anybody else? I suggest we take a 5-minute break.
Turn off your alarm clock. Good.
Better redo.
Oh, we have one more.
Jackie, you're back again.
I am back. I don't like confrontation. Okay? I don't know you folks. I know Pat, because he's our liaison, and I know Bob. But I follow what goes on, and I intend to be more involved so I can support, right? But I don't think that people really understand who you are as a person. And I think that's very important for Ocean Pines, to get to know that you are fighting for people, that you are doing your best that you can. And I just want to say thank you to all of you, because you have to get to know guys individually and as a group to know that you are fighting for us. Right? So I thank you. And I'm pretty particular.
Thank you, Captain.
I'll second that.
Jack, did you want to respond to that before we
Yeah,
take a break?
I wanted to respond to Tom, who has left. I just want to make sure everybody fully understands that if something goes in the budget does not mean that it is an automatic expenditure. Any expenditure above a certain amount of money must come to the board vis-a-vis Bob for final approval. So just because something is in the budget doesn't necessarily mean it's a reality that we have. Keep that in mind.
Also, to add to what you say, Jack, you're absolutely right, but also it's just, if it's a certain amount of money, we have to go to referendum. It goes back to you. Even though it's in the budget, it just doesn't mean.
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully the food truck's not going to cost $1.8 million.
Right.
You can't tell.
Okay, I call for a 5-minute break, please. That's it. Next item on the agenda was capital purchase request. There are none. And the next item is CPI violations. Bob Thompson, there's none. Everybody good? Next item on the agenda is old business. Any other old business we have to read? Okay, then we move on to new business. And we have a motion for the first reading resolution.
No. Back. You want.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm going to ask the question if this falls under the topic of old business, and that is the White Horse Park bathrooms. And so I make a motion to accept the proposal and move forward with those.
We want a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
No,
discussion?
Yes.
Dave has a discussion.
There is nothing in the package. First of all, we received. I didn't know that this was even going to be on the agenda today. It's not on the agenda, as a matter of fact. And it's on a package. It is a package received from the general manager this morning. So the first time we even knew that this was on the agenda and we were going to vote for it is this morning. I have questions about this. that I have no idea. I have no idea, for an example, exactly where it's going to be. Now, one of the things that would be of interest to me, and maybe you've got the exact location down, but that wasn't submitted in the package to us that we're supposed to vote upon, is exactly where this thing's going to be. Say, well, it's over closer to the pavilion, and that's why it's really good, because, you don't have to walk a few extra steps over. I don't know whether or not the location of this building is in conformance with the overall stormwater management plan for White Horse Park. My recollection is, when we built this building, we had developed a stormwater management plan. We were required to develop those that would allow us to do this, and also to put the and put the fire. Well, the fire department was moved out, and we were able to expand this building somewhat. But there were areas that we couldn't expand the building. And my understanding was at the time, and I believe I saw it at the time, was that the stormwater management plan for all of White Horse Park was it did, in fact, cover all of White Horse Park. Now we're adding another impermeable surface there. I don't know whether it's in conformance with that plan or not. I have no information on. I do not know. I asked the question earlier that this was. What's going to happen to the arts and crafts? Is that going to be torn down? Are they going to have to move? That's some kind of a future thing, unexplained. I want this information. I think this is basically a terrible way to present this to the board. We have not been given this information in advance. We don't have all the even enough information to ask all the questions. I think we need a specific proposal that answers the questions, and I think we need time to think about it, and then we need time to vote on it. And this shouldn't even appear on the agenda. And it didn't appear. When we approved the agenda, we didn't approve the agenda plus a vote to approve a bathroom in White Horse Park.
Capital expenditure.
A capital expenditure in White Horse Park. We didn't go. And as Jack said earlier, in response to the person who was asking, a budget being in the budget is totally different than approving a project. It's not the same thing. So I object to the motion. I think I would defer the motion. As a matter of fact, I'll move to what's the right term?
There's a motion on the floor.
I can move to. I'll come up with the right word in a minute. Basically, to delay the motion until we have more information.
Well, I want to say that although I approve projects, and I think it's well needed in the community, I don't have any objection of delaying it until every director gets the information and feels comfortable to make a proper decision. So I would go along with your recommendation, even though I would approve the project. If you need more time, or any other director needs more time, I feel it's important to give them time to make a proper decision.
Just for clarification, Pat, are we in a motion to table the motion? If there is none, then we need a second, or is this just part of discussion?
I'm moving to table the motion. Thanks, Tom.
And I'll second the motion there, Tom.
All right, so now the discussion is now on the
Tabling.
motion
Yeah.
to table.
You're right.
Just to be clear, to make sure we're clear on what we're doing.
Right.
Okay, Cheryl?
We're in the discussion on Dave's motion now, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Bill, do you have a comment?
No, sure.
I'm back to speak.
I'm sorry, I thought you did.
No, all I do is take a breath. This is an item that's been in the budget for a couple of years. This is an item that is overdue. This, to me, is another example of delay, and do nothing with things in this community. This is a safety concern as well as a convenience. The safety concern is children running across the road where cars are traveling to get to the existing bathrooms. When we have large crowds at movie night, concerts, etc., those are the only bathrooms available to people. And so this is not only a convenience and very much needed, because one of the bathrooms that's available to people who come here is not even ADA accessible. I don't understand why these boards that have existed, because we were not part of the board that developed this budget, but this was one of those, if you will, carryover capital items that I was opposed to. This has been in the budget. Let's move forward and do this. You were, Mr. Stevens, you were part of the budget development, and this was in there for several years. I'm not understanding why now you are so uncertain about moving forward on it, and why you would have all of these questions. We have a proposal. We've been told the purpose. We've been told the size. We've been told the cost. We've been told exactly, not to the pinpoint exact location, but we've been told where it's going to be placed. I don't understand why there are still all these questions about it. So I'm opposed to delaying this.
Jack?
Yeah, Cheryl, if I may, I don't think any of the individuals who have mentioned this particular issue are opposed to it. If we would have received this information 3-4 days ago, if we would have received this information a month ago, if we would have received this information not at a presentation by the GM, then it may have just slid right through. It's form and format. Yeah, you know, I would be in favor of it, but there are some board members that feel that let's take a look at these things and let's do it the correct way and make sure that we fully understand all of the ramifications of our votes. That's all. It's as plain and as simple as that. And you know, I applaud Bob for his efforts in trying to get it done. I mean, I'm not trying to malign the guy, but at the same time, I think that it has to be a learning process whereby the board has to be made aware of certain things that are going to be discussed and some things that are going to be voted on a timely basis so that they have the ability to think about it, to rationalize it in their minds as to the right thing to do, right or wrong, as to the right thing to do. And that's all that's being asked here. That's all. Not to delay the project, not that this is another stalling tactic, none of that. It's form, and that's all.
Bill?
We've known this was coming. Am I, as a board member, going to say, okay, put this bathroom here? I'm leaving that up to the people that did all the work, people that are going to do all the work, and the people that we trust to get these things done. This isn't new. We knew this was coming. So to say, where is it going and what's it going to do? And, I can't say anything.
No, I'm sorry, but I was not on the board last year. I had no idea what this project. This is the first time I saw it was today.
Okay. Making the point, Joe makes the point that we knew this was coming, and definitely we knew that there was a project for the White Horse Park Path. It was in last year's budget. My understanding at that time, and I believe I'm quoting Tom Terry and saying these are placeholders. Okay, that's the way I feel. But nevertheless, they were in last year's budget, and we knew they were coming, and we knew this was going to happen. Then why, on the day of a meeting, do we get a proposal on the day of a meeting? Why don't we have it a month ago? Why don't we have it 6 months ago, or 3 months ago, or 2 months ago? Why don't we have
2 days?
Well, I'll go with 3 days. Enough time to say that we have all of the information that's necessary to proceed with this project. And we don't. The fact of the matter is, it was slipped in this morning, not even put on the agenda, and now we're going to proceed under old business with something that's not even, we don't even have a formal written motion for this. Cheryl, there are ways that you do these things. I mean, and this isn't even close to meeting the standard for how to, not even close.
Bill? I believe the general manager said in his presentation that he finished it up yesterday afternoon. That's why we didn't have it before this. So 2 days ago, 3 days ago, is he going to give us an incomplete proposal? No, he gave it to us. If we don't want to do it, we don't want to do it. I mean, if we want to put it off, put it off. We've been putting it off anyway, so let's.
Beg your pardon. We have not been putting it off. We
Put
have
everything
not
off.
been putting it off. This is the first time we've received a specific proposal for doing these business. This is the very first time. If you've got something else, show it. In fact, yes, he just finished it last night. Okay, I accept that. He finished it last night. But why didn't he finish a month ago or 2 months ago? Because we knew it was coming. He knew it was coming. I suggest he finished it last night because we would be put in exactly this present situation right now.
That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable to charge an employee in this organization that he would do something underhand like that. If he says he finished it up yesterday, then he finished it up yesterday.
I believe that, and now answer my question as to why it wasn't done a month ago or 2 months ago.
Bob, can I ask you a question? If we don't pass it this time, in other words, if we table the motion, what situation will happen with the bathroom? We're not going to do anything until we pass it, is that correct?
That's correct.
So then how would a delay be implemented? How long is it going to take to do the project, I guess?
Well, you understand you're about to put me in an interesting spot when you ask that, and here's why. Again, we're making a simple issue more challenging unnecessarily. I didn't say I need a motion to support this today. I said I finished this last night, I'm giving it to you. It's up to the board what to do with it at this point. We have taken things like this in the past and decided to wait a week or two, so if there were any questions, we'd do it by email. We've done that, but instead, we want to go in attack mode, what we didn't do right. This doesn't, I'm sitting here just listening, and I've got to tell you, it's almost to a point where it gets absurd in the fact to think I would try to slide in a bathroom. What kind of I'm sliding it in like you won't see it built when it's done? That doesn't even make sense. I got the information wrapped up last night. We're waiting for final quotes. I wanted to review it. I brought it to you. The best thing to do is say, hey, Bob, can we table it for a week and take a vote email? Or would you mind, is it possible to delay here? Instead, we go in full attack mode of what wasn't done right.
Actually,
I gave it to you. I gave it to you as soon as I had all the information.
The point to full attack mode, if I may, came in with a specific motion from Cheryl to proceed. And that's what's being tabled, and that's what's on the table right now.
I like your idea. I really do, Bob. I mean, I think it's a good idea to table it for a week and then vote via email. That's a great approach.
I agree.
I mean, I really do.
It wasn't my
It's not designed. It's not to pick on you. It is basically this, that something is put in front of us and we are asked to make a decision at this particular point in time. It might be better to adopt your approach, that give us a couple of days to think about it. We'll vote it via email, get the daggone thing done, move on.
Let's not put a timeline on ourselves. It's not going to happen on us. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, let's make sure we're clear on something here. Bob Thompson did not ask us for a motion today. He did not ask for that. I was listening just like everybody else. So the procedural attacks, which happen quite often, were out of place, incorrect. Quite frankly, this is a budget item, as Cheryl has said, that has been around for more than a year. It's something we did know about. And the question is, does the board want to have more time to debate a bathroom as to exactly where it's going to be? If this board wants to, and we're still in discussion on Dave's motion, if this board wants to commit to an electronic email vote that everybody will participate in, then we can ask questions over the next week, get the information back from Bob, and then Cheryl can make her motion via email. I personally do not want to have a special meeting over a bathroom. But if we will commit to an electronic vote, then I will support the motion to table the motion until we have had a week's worth of time to study, get answers, and then Cheryl can put forth her motion via email. That would be my proposal. That would be my suggestion. That's. I think others have said the same thing. Jack may have just said it.
Would you revise your motion, Dave?
To allow us to move on.
No, I moved to table. And so,
Just table period.
well, you can move to, table can be an indefinite time. You can bring the motion up in another week if I table the motion now. Table until sufficient information is provided to the board in their mind to be able to cast a vote. Can that happen in a week? Of course. It could happen tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But not today. Not until the information is provided. And the information I want to know is no more than exactly where it's going. It's exactly is where it's going, and will it be acceptable by the county in terms of our storm management? And what will happen? Not just that's in the future, but what will happen to the arts and crafts building that we have right now? I mean, is this just the tip of the iceberg that we're doing, or is it like first step of a lot of other things? So I want to.
Dave, I would request that you adjust your motion to state that you table the motion until March 3rd, at which point in time Cheryl can put forth her motion via email and we will vote on it. And this is a vote towards building the bathrooms. While it's tangentially connected to what's going to go on with the crafts people, it doesn't mean we don't replace bathrooms, because that answer hasn't come yet. That's just my view of it.
Well,
in my opinion, Dave, if you will make your motion to say that it's tabled until March 3rd, at which point in time we will vote on it via email, then I think we can move on.
I'm looking at my calendar to see when March 3rd is.
That's a week from today.
A week from today? You're right, yes. March 1st is
All right, I'll amend my motion to do that.
And is that just for clarification, was that the night that Mr. Mullen said that he had his meeting? Did he say it was next Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would tie in. He would possibly have an answer.
Oh, yes, it is.
All right. Is there any more discussion on the Dave's motion to table?
Well, we have to vote.
And then, that's right, discussion. Yeah, I'm going to call for the vote. Those in favor of tabling the motion until we've had.
By the way, let me make that close of business March 3rd. Or noon 3rd. Just to be specific.
You want to make the motion?
Yes. Close of business March 3rd.
Close of business March 3rd. Okay. Does everybody understand what the motion is?
Yes. I move to table.
Okay.
Cheryl's motion. Until March 3rd.
Close of business.
Okay.
Wait a minute. And there will be a vote by email associated with it. Was part of what Tom's suggestion was. Are you leaving that out now?
Well, no. At which point you would be able to make a motion, and you would do it in parallel and simultaneous, and it would be understood that motion would be acted upon on March 3rd.
Well, why can't she make that motion now, or her motion carries on from here? That's already been a motion and seconded.
Well, without getting into these messy little procedural things, I haven't seen the motion. It's not written down. I think if we take some time, Cheryl can write out the motion, and it can be, and we'll all see it. She can put it out tomorrow or whatever. Here's the motion. We'll all have it by email, and I don't know if we can even publish it for that matter, and put it on the webpage. So now everybody will know what we're voting on March 3rd, and motion table, and during the day of March 3rd, we'll all vote on it. It'll be done. And I'm just putting the close of business, saying, hey, look, if you didn't vote for it by then, then you're going to abstain. That's
All right, let's call for a show of hands. Who's in favor of tabling the motion at this time?
Aye.
Motion
Tom?
Do you want to ask
Yeah,
anybody opposed?
Is anybody opposed?
I'm
For the
opposed.
first
I thought
time
you
in
raised your
this
hand.
year,
I did not,
I'm gonna
you didn't look in
abstain.
this direction.
I did. That's all right.
what did you say, Tom? I'm
All right,
sorry.
here's, so far, Tom Terry has abstained. I see all but Cheryl's vote, I understand. Cheryl, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Opposed.
And one opposed.
5-1. Moving on.
Now, just so everyone understands, once that motion carries or fails, if it carries, it will then be added to the agenda for the next board meeting, reaffirmation that our membership will know what occurred. As just we usually put it on if we vote outside of a board meeting.
It's a good approach.
Yes, it will. One of the things that we'll have to make sure, I have no objection to doing this electronically and not having another meeting. We do want to make sure that if there are negative votes, that the reason for the negative votes can be, we can let people know why it worked. I mean, that.
In the past, when we voted outside, it's typically just a motion carried 6-1, 5-2, whatever it was, and that's it. There's typically not a discussion at that point because the discussion has occurred here and electronically. So I'm just giving you what the normal process has been for outside of board meeting motions.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree with that.
Let's move on. Come on.
Okay. Let's hear.
Can we move on?
Please.
All right, the next is new business and the motion first reading resolution FO1.
We have some other pending sports court. Have we taken any action on that?
No, we haven't.
That was in your
What's going on
package.
with
That was in our package. It was in our package in time.
And that is one I did ask for action.
And you have required. I'll make the motion that we approve the general manager's recommendation.
I'll second. I'm sorry, Tom. You want to second that?
Yeah.
Okay, Tom Harris.
I'll second it. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Carry 7-0.
With the caveat.
No.
With the caveat.
No caveat.
Our slide is going to be in the picture. Right, Bob?
No comments, sir. Motion carried.
Can I ask a question, Dave, of you? You just made a motion on something that sounded exactly like the motion that I made on the bathrooms, which you criticized me for and said it wasn't in the proper form. So for me, as a learning tool here, I'm trying to understand what's the difference in what you just did and what I proposed.
I can explain that, Cheryl.
I appreciate it.
That in general, general manager will make recommendations and provide supporting information during his presentation. We delay until we've heard public comments and knows what those. Everybody gets to see what it is that we propose. The motion itself, literally, I could take the time to write it down, but on the other hand, I have confidence in Michelle here. She is going to capture it. And basically, it's a simple motion to approve. That all of this is according to the procedures we've used, I don't know, since I've been on board. I think it has to be a change. General manager makes a recommendation. We've seen the information. We follow the information. We've read the information. We vote on it. None of that hasn't been the case of the White Hills Forest rules. There's been a confusion, which Jack tried to straighten out very successfully. That there's a big difference between a budgeted item and between proposal. They're two different things. First one happens, second one happens. And the second one was not provided, the information was not provided, it was in advance, it wasn't put on the agenda in advance. I mean, I can look on this agenda, I look at the manager's report, which is part of the agenda, and I can see sports book. You show me where White Horse Park bathrooms are on this agenda, maybe I'll change my mind, but they're not.
Can we move on?
Yes.
Please, a motion for first reading resolution FO1, Tom Terry.
What's an easy answer?
Tom?
Yeah, the motion, thank you. The motion is that the Board of Directors accepts revised FO1 for a first reading. This is a recycle. I've been with the support of Doug Clark, so I appreciate very much his help recently in working through these issues, both this one and the next one. That I've been through the bylaws committee. First reading simply means that we accept it as the draft for the board to review and for public comment. Does not necessarily need to be debated here today, but it simply gives the members and the board a month. That's usually the plan, that the second reading would be at the next meeting, at which time we would, during that month, we would accept comments, suggested change in language, share that with the board in preparation of it being a second reading and passing for closure at the next board meeting. So basically, I'm just making a motion that this draft resolution FO1 be accepted for a first reading, and I need a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to discuss this. Tom, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. What is the what's in the mindset of the committee members in bringing this forward to replace the existing resolution that is currently
last August? Yeah, let me answer your question. In the summer, last August or September, the board brought through a very short update of what was then FO1, which was a clarification that would allow for our funds to be protected via a commitment on the part of the bank for funds that go over the FDIC level. But at that time, it was noted by the committee that they were going to continue to work on the FO1 to make sure that it is, in their eyes, much more complete and thorough, a much more complete, thorough document in providing the guideline for the investment of the funds of our OPA. And that is the purpose of this coming forward at this point, was their work over the last 2 to 3 months to put together a more complete guideline they believe is what we ought to use.
Okay, I'm going to reserve my comments for a much broader discussion that will probably occur the next time this comes up.
Yeah, second reading. I appreciate that.
All right, does everybody understand what we're doing?
I understand that as well.
Okay, Dave, I see you.
No, I don't. I'm not going to wait till the second reading. Well, and by the way, no surprise to anybody on the board. I've already, stated I've read disputed in one email what my problem is. The explanation of this being a much more thorough document, I didn't find that to be true at all. As a matter of fact, I don't know specifically what it is more thorough. I will say it has a lot more words than the other document did. But they weren't necessary words in mine. They weren't. There was no rationale for why these changes, why any of these words were put in here. Why are we changing the simpler version that we already have? What was wrong with it and how does this draft fix it? That's the bottom line explanation that we ought to get with any proposal to redraft a resolution. And that's
I will be more than happy to ask that question of the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee to provide that answer.
I would say that in order to accept this document, that question should have been asked already. And as a matter of fact, and as a matter of
yeah, why don't we, hey Dave, why don't we just delay this for 6 months? I mean, come on, at some point we have to move on with these
excuse
things.
me, point of order, Mr. Chairman, is this part of the civility that you're talking about? Is that part of the civility?
Keep going.
Oh, man.
Dave, what is your purpose in doing this? Do you think we should disregard this altogether? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
As a matter of fact, well, let me put it this way. There is no reason, in my mind, to adopt this. It's a draft resolution, which in my mind is poorly written, poorly organized, and which does not answer the fundamental question, why is it that we have to change what was already written in the original resolution? The original resolution basically said we are going to invest our funds in monies that are either insured by the federal government, guaranteed by the federal government, or, as it was added, and in which I think is a debatable point, collateralized by the funds that the bank has that collateralized by their government insured agency funds. That was it. It's very simple. It says that's what we're putting our money in. Now you can read through this overview. The investment cash is primarily received. These words add nothing to that. And as a matter of fact, I think tremendously confuse the issue. You talk about the following guidelines are required for the care and maintenance of reserve funds. Preservation of capital. Well, promote and ensure the preservation of principles. Okay, that's a guideline. We want to keep our principles safe. The following are accepted liquid asset investment categories. And they talk about money market accounts and certificates of deposit not to exceed FDIC insurance. Okay, so we're covered by FDIC insurance. Notwithstanding the aforementioned limitation, deposits in excess of FDIC coverage must be collateralized. And that's an arguable point.
No.
But by the way, it's already stated in the original resolution, the one that we have right now. So we're not going to argue about it now, unless we put it up as a separate subject. Deposits under the CDARS. I mean, we've been doing CDARS for years. So what does that add? Of course, CDARS are in fact government insured. They're exactly the same. They're FDIC insured. They're exactly the same as buying a $250,000 CD. 100% insured. Individual short and intermediate general obligation U.S. bonds. These are guaranteed by the U.S. government. Okay, fine. All securities must all securities must be purchased with the intent to hold to maturity. What does that add? I mean, we're not going to hold them to maturity. And by the way, there may be circumstances in which we don't want to hold them to maturity. Could be very good circumstances for doing that. The answer must, so that's just flat out. It's an addition. It turns out it's not even a correct addition. Investing in individual U.S. agency securities. The duration period of the security, as well as a reinvestment strategy for prepaid principal, must be identified and considered.
Mr.
Are you kidding?
Maybe I could be helpful in this.
Probably not, but go ahead, Bob.
Oh, that's really
Jeez.
You know what? Do your thing. No, sir. I
No,
don't.
come on.
I didn't choose the name.
None of it.
That was not. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. You seem to have
I've
it.
apologized.
My recommendation would be, it's a board committee, a budget and finance committee. Since I don't know what I'm talking about, let me clarify. It's a board-approved committee. Their meeting's on March 23rd. It's their recommendation. I would recommend the board attend their meeting and ask these questions from the experts that made the recommendation and you can get the direct feedback instead of trying to guess what it was. Then we're more knowledgeable before we come to the board meeting for the second reading to see if it's something we'd like to move forward with as an association.
If we do, that's a good idea. If we do that, don't we need a recording or someone recording the goings on, a recording secretary?
Well, the committees actually, they record their things, but that's a fact-finding opportunity for the board of directors to get smarter about what this is. So it's your committee. Use the committee to help educate you as to why they're there. We're making it up right now. What's in their mindset? What are they? Why don't we ask them directly? It's a board committee. Go to the meeting and ask.
See nothing.
Yes, sure.
Would you normally have someone from the committee here to be answering these questions as they are putting this forward?
Actually, we did have someone available at the last meeting. Her husband is having surgery today, so she couldn't be there. Pat Sufik is the chair. It was actually at the last meeting when this was tried to be put forward. Unfortunately, I had jumped the gun on the bylaws committee, so I needed to go back through the bylaws committee in order to submit this for first reading again. So it was actually presented at last month's meeting with the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee there to answer questions. But we went back through the process and came back for a first reading acceptance. And we're now debating whether or not our Budget and Finance Committee has the financial wherewithal to write a document that they believe is more complete. That is the position that's being taken by some people. That's fine. They're allowed to have that position. My motion is simply to accept this for a first reading, and it's been seconded, so that we can move forward with this. And I think Bob's suggestion is very good. And as I said, I'll be more than happy to go back to the committee and ask why they felt where this document was needed to go beyond what was originally there. And there's lots of comments that could be made, but in my mind, these are, in fact, members of our Budget and Finance Committee who have made this proposal. And we have every right to ask questions at this point.
Well, Jack.
Tom, so what I'm hearing you say is that you like Bob Thompson's idea? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I think that's a part of the process.
Okay. Well, let me cut you off. Let me cut you off, Todd. It's a yes or no answer. You know what I mean?
No, he's that right there.
In any event, can I poll the board to see how they feel about that? See if they would like to attend a meeting like that. Is that okay with everybody?
Or do you want to have the discussion?
Just poll, yay, nay.
The motion is for first reading.
No, I'm not talking about the motion.
You feel like you need to go to the meeting.
This is outside. This is outside the motion, Bill. Outside the motion. It was proposed by the GM that the board meet with the committee, which I think is a good idea, and I would like to poll the board to see if they think that's a good idea or not a good idea. That's all.
The GM said if you feel like you need to go to the committee meeting, go to the committee meeting. But we as a board, I'm not saying I'm going to another meeting for something that I don't know that I need to be there for. So if you feel that as an individual that you have questions of these folks, then attend the meeting and ask the questions.
Well,
I think polling, it's an individual decision as to whether any of us want to go. And I think that's whether you're interested. I'm interested, yeah, but will I go? No, I don't know.
Can we get back to I appreciate Bob's suggestion and certainly getting more information from the committee as to exactly what the purpose of this is, other than just adding more information, is worthwhile. On the other hand, we have no guarantee that we go to the meeting that the person who actually wrote this, and I don't know who that is, will actually be there, or that the remaining who will actually be able to explain it. I don't know. I just don't know. But that's part of it. All I'm saying is here's a motion to accept this resolution. And I think, for a number of reasons, that this resolution is unacceptable as a first draft. It's unacceptable as a first draft. It doesn't add anything, nor is there any rationale other than adding more information. And I'm going down through what that information is. It is not more information. There is no reason. I mean, get to the heart. What was wrong with the original resolution, and why are we changing it with this? Don't tell me it's just to add a pile more information in there, or more specifics. Because these specifics aren't even self-consistent. This is not a well-written resolution. I'm sorry to those who wrote it, and I feel that I'm sure that they spent a lot of time and effort to do it. But it's not acceptable, and I'm not going to.
I think we've debated this enough. I want to call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the motion for the first reading resolution, please signify, raising hand, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Yeah, 6-1.
Oh, 5
to 2.
2?
Jack.
Oh, Jack did too. Okay. Sorry, 5-2.
That's all right.
All right, now our next motion is first reading resolution CO3. Tom?
This is another one from the Budget and Finance Committee. Motion is for the board accept the revised CO3 for a first reading. Periodically, members of our committee are asked to, at least they were by me when I was sitting in the center chair, to review the guideline by which the committee functions as to what it is, their purpose, and things that they believe that they should be doing. And they, again, have had many conversations about this and have proposed this document to be basically their directive from the board. To be, these are the things they believe they should be doing to help the board, and it is a proposal for a first reading for the board to accept it so they can, again, just like the last one, understand and put it forth for public comment and for board to review and study. Again, the motivation behind this was an ongoing process by which the committees have a responsibility, frankly, to look at what their guideline says and whether they agree with it or want to make changes. This is their suggested revision of CO3. That's my motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of the same thing. I already know the answer to this one, but I'm not sure. What this resolution, or the draft resolution proposed, replaces the draft resolution that we already had. What are the differences, Tom, between specific differences between the one that's being proposed and the one we're replacing? Anybody on the board can answer the question.
That's part of the I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I don't know the specifics. I haven't gone word for word. This is their proposal.
Okay, so we don't know why they've made changes, and
We don't know what the changes
are. We don't know what the changes are.
I sat in the meeting and listened to the conversations that went on.
Yeah.
But again, this is their proposal to the board. They're an advisory committee. This is how they're advising that changes be made, and a line-by-line comparison can be made, if you would like, as part of the review of the first reading during that month to see what the changes are. We can certainly do that.
Well, we could do that, but let me suggest something different. I mean, do you think it's unreasonable for me to ask that when the Budget and Finance Committee puts forward a proposal to change an existing resolution, that they not provide the reason that what they're changing and the reason for changing it? I mean, that can be a paragraph. In this case, it probably could be a paragraph because it's not all that much of a change that I can see. But I mean, that is what I believe we ought to expect Now, I'm not blaming the Budget and Finance Committee for this because perhaps nobody told me that that's what we were expecting. But I think it's very reasonable that we do expect to hear. That's a very simple thing, Tommy.
I'm not arguing with you, Dave. I'd be more than happy to do that.
I didn't think you would. I didn't think you would.
All right, can we move on and accept it as a first reading then? Is that correct?
Well, you can call it for
Question, yeah. All those in favor of the first reading? Signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
Aye. I mean, nay. I oppose. Simply for the reason.
Jack, which are you?
I'm aye. I'm an
You're
aye.
Okay.
I'm
So that was 6. Moving on. Motion to approve the FY 2016-17 budget. Tim.
Motion be it resolved that the Board of Directors hereby approves the proposed budget for fiscal year 2016-2017, which budget was modified following presentation to the membership at the public hearing on January 30th, 2016, in which budget reflects total revenues of $11,179,372 and operating expenses and transfers of the same amount. A basic annual assessment of $921 and capital expenditures of $3,490,800. The background on this, we've had.
I'll second your motion.
Second.
Sure, second. Thank you. The background on this is, we've had, 30, 40 hours worth of review of the budget, sat in on Budget Finance Committee. In the end, we ended up with the dues and assessments being set, agreed to last Friday in a meeting that I attended via conference call, that the dues would be set, and they stay exactly as they were for the previous fiscal year.
Discussion. Jack?
Hey, Tom, where are you now? Where are you physically?
Physically?
Yeah.
Do you really need to know?
Yeah, I really do. I got a follow-up question.
I'm sitting in a bed, 2 pillows behind my neck, in a timeshare in Orlando, Florida, enjoying the sun.
You dirty dog. Look, have you received the final summary draft of the budget?
Have I?
Yes.
No, I have not, because I'm down here and I don't need to see it.
Okay, I haven't either. I haven't received.
No, let me finish the answer. I have not gotten.
Okay, I haven't received the final draft either. I got here about 10 minutes up and came right into the the meeting hall. I got to go across the administration building, so I really don't know what I'm voting for. I mean, I haven't seen the physical document in front of me, and I'm afraid I don't know what I'm voting for. And it concerns me because of things that we've heard about on the national level about people voting on things that they haven't read. So I'm going to have to either abstain any vote that I would cast in terms of approving a budget, because I haven't seen the summary level agreement. I haven't seen it.
Dave?
Yeah, same thing here, but I'm not going to abstain. I move to table the motion until we have a chance to see the change pages that have been and review them a reasonable amount of time. I was over at noon yesterday. Bob's doors closed. I went over to Art. He said, well, I finished everything. They're in Bob's office. At something like, I had other things to do too. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a notice from Bob that they changed pages a bit. Now, let me point out that although the basics of the budget, I think we did agree on, and I'm not expecting anything to be any different. But on the other hand, there were a lot of changes made in terms of which capital items were approved, which ones weren't, so forth. And I think that before approving the final budget, I want to be able to go through those and to be able to say, yeah, those are them. And I think getting them sometime in the afternoon, actually I didn't even know when they'd be ready when I left at noon and had other business to do. So I don't have time. I'm moving to table this motion until we can all pick up the, the budget. I can, if you give me the weekend and wait till Monday, I'm good for that. I do, Jack.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, something like that. That would be suitable. So I made my motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like the bathrooms. If you don't feel comfortable voting and you don't feel you have the information in time, I'm more than happy to give you a couple more days to review it, go over it, and see what it says. I have no problem with that. Bill?
We met maybe 8 times, spent 40-some hours, probably more than 40-some hours on this budget. When we scheduled the meeting for last Friday, we scheduled that date so that we would have the final figures today. Okay? That's what was said, that we would have the final figures today. Not yesterday, not the day before that. We knew it was going to take Art time to get them to. We said we were scheduling that date to give Art time to have the figures to us today. We had the figures today. We had them yesterday afternoon. I came in yesterday afternoon and got them. That was a spread, I got them earlier than we were scheduled to. We came in, we had a meeting last week, and I don't know what you could glean out of the pages that we had today. Nothing has changed. The assessment hasn't changed. Capital hasn't changed. Unless you're saying that you don't believe that Art entered everything correctly, I have no idea what you could be looking for. When we met last week, Tom had given us a list the night before, the day before, of things that we were supposed to talk about. Okay? That was the day before. We come to the meeting, and I thought that we were going to go over those things because that's really not things that we had nailed down. And then Mr. Stevens shows up with a list of his own. Now, he said he sent it out the night before. I didn't get it, and apparently the only ones that got it were Mr. Herrick and Mr. Collins. Although, some of us didn't get it. But that was okay. We went over that entire list, one by one by one, and talked about it, even though they had already been talked about at our meetings previously. They were things that that Mr. Stevens had a problem with. We had already discussed them and voted on them before, but we went over and did that again. I just don't know how many times we can keep going over the same thing. It's not going to change. And like I said, I don't know what could be come out of these pages. We told them that we had the meeting. We scheduled the meeting for last Friday so that we would have those pages today. If we were that interested in those pages, we may have come in at 8 o'clock this morning and spent the hour going over those pages before this meeting. You knew that they were there because you got the email yesterday saying they were there. Last year, poor Ruth Ann is being cursed at daily because people don't have their bills. Last year we stalled, we did this, we stalled and didn't get this approved until the second week of March. And those poor people over there getting yelled at daily. It takes them weeks to print the bills, weeks to stuff them, get them sent out, and all that kind of stuff. And, the longer we put this off, the worse we are as an association, because a lot of people would have paid them by now. A lot of people want their bills early, would have paid them by now. And, just to keep putting it off, okay, and then Monday it'll be something else. Then, Wednesday, it'll be something else. I don't know what could possibly change, from those pages. The assessment's not going to change. The capital's not going to, it's just not going to change.
You're just asking for a couple of days to read the final document. I don't see why it's unreasonable to give them a couple of days.
The difference is, and I think Bill just hit on it, we specifically met last Friday as a board. We specifically went over the list that both I had created and Dave. Most of ours were pretty much identical, but there were a couple things on mine, a couple on his. We went through all of it. We all sat there in the meeting and said, we need to conclude this so that the final numbers can be ready for this motion to be created for this meeting. agreed to. There was not a thing said at that moment that said I needed 24 hours in advance, I needed 72 hours in advance. The bottom line is, there's a motion here that's on the table that matches exactly what we came up with as a board after hours of meetings on our own, including going through the Budget and Finance Committee meetings as well. This has been a very laborious, very detailed, very exacting process that got us to this point. And at this point in time, to give an impression to the members of the association that somehow the board did not have the information, did not have the time to debate, did not have the time to work through the numbers, did not work through a process that they agreed to follow. To me, delaying this and passing the motion that's been made to delay it simply sends a message to the members that the board of directors didn't have the information, and that can paint a picture that can be very valuable to some people. In my opinion, I do not and will not, we're supposed to delay this, because we've had a very succinct, very tight, we've had a managed process to get us to this point. We are at the point of where we said we were going to be, and I see no reason to delay this further. I see no reason. Obviously, I'm not going to vote for this motion.
Tom, we agreed in principle to the budget, and I think we can all agree on that. But I don't think I personally did not know exactly what the exact dollar hit would be on the reserve fund and how much was going to be taken away until I grabbed that report this morning. So you're asking them to vote, not know the exact dollar amount on how it affects the reserves, because I didn't know until I got the report, and they're saying they have yet to see the report. So although we agreed in principle, I don't think the exact dollar amount was shown to us how it would affect the reserves. And that's all they're asking to see. All they're asking for is that information before they vote. No? I didn't know until this morning.
Quite frankly, Tom, no. The debate came down to a compromise, which I know many people sent me notes, frankly, praising the compromise.
I have, and I was
came
happy
out of
for
that
that.
meeting, and again, regardless of that, the facts are that it was stated in that meeting that we would use the capital money that is coming in from what used to be the 5-year plan to cover current new capital expenditures for this year, just like we did last year. And then this year we would end up with the dues being exactly where they are. You're referring to a one number that Bob and Art had to figure out exactly what that would be, which they have done. And again, I'm not going to repeat what I've already said. We committed to having these dollars in place, these dollars being committed so that this motion could be created, and I'm not going to vote to delay the vote on the budget. We've spent plenty of time, plenty of energy, and ended the process in a compromised, cooperative way, and I don't want to end this process with another painting of it as if there's something wrong. Now, Tom, that's my answer to you. I can't debate.
Let me just clarify for you, Tom, because I think you're putting words in people's mouths here. This has nothing to do with whether or not anybody trusts anybody or whether or not we're giving the wrong impression to the members. We have a fiduciary responsibility, and we have to do diligence and go through a process of approval on a budget. And we're doing that. I may not have one iota of a problem with this budget as it is presented. I haven't seen it. I'm not blaming anybody for it. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything wrong. It's just a matter of timing. And I don't appreciate it being indicated that any obstruction to a vote is sending the wrong message to our members other than we are doing the job that we are elected to do, and that is due diligence on spending the money that our people pay into the OPA treasury. And that's my modus operandi. Nothing more, nothing less.
Jack, I hear you loud and clear, and we have, in fact, done exactly what you just said. For hours and hours and hours of very intense debate, discussion, gone through this budget numerous times, line by line, tab by tab, we have done exactly what you just said. And I believe at this point we have committed that we wanted the numbers to be finalized by this meeting so we could vote on it. Pat, I suggest we call the question on the delay, because all we're going to do is end up being discourteous.
Pat, I think you should let Pat run the meeting.
Thank you. I am running the meeting. All right. Unless there's more discussion on that particular.
I've had my hand up.
Oh, I said Dave. I thought you were.
Oh,
go ahead.
All right. First of all, Jack is exactly right. I mean, in terms of telling the membership that we're delaying anything, it's absolute nonsense. What we're simply saying is the final vote, the final budget, okay, the one that's going to appear on our webpage, consists of document we had last Friday, plus change pages, which were generated by Art. They're significant. Art told me they were significant. That's why maybe it took so long to do it. I don't know what the exact process was. We never, ever, nor would I have ever agreed that we were going to vote on a budget today without having a reasonable chance to look at the final changes and to see what they say. That's not a big suspicious thing or anything like that, but it's just checking to see that we understand what happened. We need, if we're going to vote on a document, we need the whole document. What we're saying right now is we don't have the whole document. We don't have it. And saying that we got it yesterday at 3 o'clock, that's unacceptable. We need the document. We need a chance to sit down and review it, and then we need a chance to vote on it. And you're arguing about 4 more days to approve it. My table is until Monday. I want the weekend to sit down with the change pages. I want to see them and then feel comfortable that, yeah, we got it right. And why in the world you would say that we don't need it and that we don't have to see what the final document is beyond my understanding. And if you want to debate that with people in Ocean Ponds and say that I'm really dragging my feet, I'd be happy to tell people in Ocean Ponds that I'm not going to vote on something I haven't seen.
Yes, sure.
I received the email that all of you did yesterday indicating that the information would be available to us. Of course, yesterday was my very last day of working. I'm retired starting today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But because I knew I wouldn't be here in time to pick up the package, I made the effort to have it placed in the police department for me to pick up when I came through here like 8 o'clock last night. And I took the time to go through the information. Tom, you said you picked yours up this morning, and you took the time to go through it.
Quickly, yes.
Bill, you picked yours up in time, so you've had an opportunity to go through it. Tom has indicated that he didn't have it, but he feels comfortable that after, as he said, all the many, many hours that we've spent doing this, that he is prepared to go forward on the vote. If we were to give you an opportunity over lunch to pick up your, Jack, you and Dave, you hadn't picked yours up. If we gave you an opportunity over lunch to pick up your packages and review them, can we reconvene after lunch and get this vote out of the way? Obviously, we don't need days to review this. It's just a matter of looking at the differences in the pages.
You know, Cheryl, I was over there at 12 o'clock. I left a note with Michelle. Bob's door was closed. I talked to Art. Art told me yeah, the budget's done, but it's in Bob's office. And I left a note with Michelle. I said, look, I have other things to do this afternoon. And there were commitments. And I meant I did not have the opportunity to go over that evening. As a matter of fact, by the time I got the note and was able to do anything, the office was being closed. I didn't call up to say leave it in the police station. But you know what? We're all on different schedules, Cheryl, as you better than anybody. We don't all have the same time to do a reasonable amount of time. It's not 3 o'clock on the day before we're going to vote. It's not a reason. And if it's not, we can do it. We can postpone it to Monday. You don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what Jack's doing. And moreover, I'm not going to look at it in a half an hour or whatever you're suggesting and then back vote there. I want to look at my notes. I want to check on that. I want to look at it with respect to the budget and the last one we have, which I don't have. Well, I do have a budget. But so, at any rate, I see no reason that it has to be done. And by the way, I disagree 100% with Bill and with Tom that we committed to doing this today. I certainly agree that we set this as a target, but that was based on the premise that we would have a reasonable time, at least a day, to have the budget in advance. I know Bill's shaking said
no premise. It was an open meeting. It's on videotape. We said we scheduled it for last Friday so that we would have those numbers for today.
And I asked Art at that meeting, when do you think you're going to have the numbers? He says, well, there's an awful lot that changed. When I talked to Art yesterday, he said there were a lot of changes. I said, I certainly want to check what those changes were, because you know what? It's not just a function of being suspicious of somebody doing it deliberately. It's a function of people make mistakes. And I don't want to pass or to vote on a budget that I haven't had a reasonable amount of time to review and to make sure it's what we say and to be satisfied. That's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to do that. And anybody who doesn't think they have to do that or shouldn't have to do that, should question their own responsibility. Okay, I don't care. You can vote on it however you want. I have my motion. My motion to table is the motion that's on.
Okay, motion is to table this until Monday. Is that correct? Well, yeah, fine. Any more discussion? We had a second to your motion.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor of tabling, say nay.
Nay.
Tom? Terry? Tom? Where is he?
Hey, Tom?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Motion does not carry.
Original motion.
Original motion is that is Tom read. Do we need to read it again?
No. It was
Okay.
made in.
Original motion is to pass.
You want to call the question?
Yes.
You have discussion first.
Yeah. Is there any more discussion?
Okay. Yes, I will. I'll say that. I won't.
man.
Again, I can't vote for something that I haven't seen, and however the rest of you feel, and that'll be the end of my discussion. I'm not going to.
All righty. I call for the vote then, unless there's any more discussion. All those in favor of passing the budget as per the motion as proposed, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
No.
No.
Negative.
You got to
You need to go for nays and abstentions.
What did I do?
All right, the vote was 4 in favor of passing motion. Are there any objections?
Well, there's not
Or
objection.
any against?
Yeah.
Bob, I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining.
You're abstaining.
I'm abstaining also.
All right,
Dave is voting against. Tom's voting against. So it's 4-1.
Yeah, that's not.
4-2.
4-2-1. Bob.
Yes, sir. That's what I have.
4-1-2.
1-2.
Okay.
Appointments?
All right. Appointments. That's me. We currently have 2 people asking for appointments, and they both happen to be on the aquatic committee. Kathy Grimes stayed through the whole meeting. Can't believe it. Tom Staff did show. Anyway, both these folks have done a good job. I've been on the 2 years. Both of them do an excellent job. Working for Tom as a secretary, takes all the nice notes for any of you to read.
Let's vote against Stouse just for the fun of it.
Yeah, all right.
Make a motion.
Okay, the motion is we would like to pass all these appointments. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Opposed?
Aye.
Come on. Come
Wanna do
on.
it?
Be a man. Come on.
Any media
Come
questions?
on. We know how you feel. Come on.
All right, the next, there's.
No, wait a
media-
minute.
Vote your
media
heart.
Wait a minute. There's no media questions. Now, go ahead. Bob, you have something?
The media questions are next.
I did. I already asked for it. Then we're not.
You didn't ask for it.
I asked for media questions. I looked right at
The
him.
reason I said.
Josh,
the reason
Josh is nodding.
Pat, I only asked because I didn't. So
I'm
making sure
sorry.
I
I
understood.
understood. I'm sorry. All right. Now, can I call for the adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Nay.
You had to beat me to it.
Nay, I'm going to vote no on things. I might as well get them.
Well,